Chairman, we're live.
And welcome back, everybody. We're in the afternoon session of our, what day is it? May 13th meeting. Our next agenda item is not an action item. This is a budget workshop with Melissa from the Extension Office. You can see on the screen, I'm assuming there's 3 years worth of data there. And I think it's important, Melissa, that you kind of explain what part is the county's, what part is the U of I's? Because there seems to be some confusion. I know the U of I pays a lot towards your salary, and then we pay towards it, or remind me, because I'm.
Yeah, so the $1,500 is the salary supervisor that goes towards my position. And my position is funded by the university outside of that $1,500.
So the 156 is for your deputies, and we pay that.
That's correct. That's for the 4-H coordinator.
Right.
That's for, my apologies.
That's right.
Oh, go ahead.
The 4-H coordinator, 4-H assistant, and the full-time office admin. And so that's the staff.
That's 3, correct? Okay.
The 4-H funds are currently funding the AmeriCorps position. That's 11 months out of the office right now. And then the university also pays for funds for summer internships. We apply for them for specific projects.
Hi, Gabby.
And then currently, the university is paying, and Valley County is hosting the digital economy AmeriCorps position. So we have a lot of staff people in there coming from different funding streams, but the county funded positions is the full-time admin, the 4-H assistant, and the 4-H youth development coordinator. Also listed as a specialist, I think.
So looking at this, we're still in the middle of 24, so we know some of those numbers are gonna go up. Is that your request for next year? Don't see the request.
Parent budget.
So, Mr. Chairman, you won't have those right now. We haven't entered in those requested amounts just yet. We will have that information available for the next budget workshops that we're doing. But for this workshop right now, all that you have is the fiscal year 2022 expenditures, the 23, and then the accurate 24. What the departments are going to be requesting, you don't have that right now, but we will make sure that in the future that you do. But what we're going to have Melissa do is just provide you with those requested amounts today.
Okay.
So on this page, you can see how this, what I'm requesting differs from last year. And then the one with the really small print is the budget justification, and so that kind of just gives you some additional context of how that budget is being used.
So the ones in yellow are
The ones that are changing.
the ones that are changing, everything else is the same.
Yeah. And so the office supplies, we haven't asked for an increase in office supplies for the past 10 years. And we've had a lot of different people coming through, and right now with the additional 4-H assistant as well as the digital economy person as well as the full-time 4-H AmeriCorps, we have a lot of additional people that we're supporting. So it's just a request for a $1,000 increase on the office supply.
Then there's another 1,000 for after school, or no, 1,500.
500 from what it was last year.
Oh, that's too right. After school, professional development went up. The awards stay the same at 200.
The awards, I think, went down to 150 last year, but with the AmeriCorps and the digital economy and then a UI summer intern, I'm just asking for a $50 bump on that, just to have the $25 incentive reward.
Now, your professional development, didn't use any in 23, a little bit in 24. And you're still asking for another 500, is that right?
So that was used. I don't know.
Well, I'm going off
Yeah.
what it's handwritten here.
So the professional development line item was a $500 request that we originally made for the administrator to be able to get additional training and support. And so when Casey was in that position, she was doing CSI Excel program. She did QuickBooks, and that's how. And then if we ever needed to do like team building or kind of office professional development as a team, we would pull out of that line item. And then that professional development line item was used, I think it was last year, to be able to support Jill doing fair entry training, because that was an unexpected, significant expense for the professional development of that administrator position to support the 4-H and fair program with the fair entry training. And
I wonder
so
if that isn't under travel, 4-H program assistance.
yeah, I don't know why that's showing up 0, because from my memory it was expended. So I don't know. We do utilize that.
So the new request on that is 2,000. That's what you're talking
Instead of 1,500, it's
about.
2,000.
That one is a change also. Gabby, what's the handwritten stuff comparison to budget?
Handwritten stuff is what we discussed that we're going up to at our meeting.
Got it.
So Melissa, the fair, per diem fair entry training was taken out of this expense line this fiscal year.
Yeah, so this
100
year
Yep.
it was out of the 4-H coordinators line for the year previous.
There's nothing expended out of that. Let's see, bear with me.
So supplies award isn't really going up.
Just $25 per person. We have 3 county staff, and AmeriCorps, a digital economy person, and our intern, and then myself if you want to do that. So that's 7.
So I just want to make sure on your list here,
The $25.
is this number times 3% of the last year's salary?
It's just what I had from last year, so it's not.
So it hasn't been timed yet.
However, the director of the elected
I don't have that information showing it's based off what.
Yeah, we don't know yet that that is either. So
So I have
these
the
are
0.03
last year's
question.
salaries. Who pays Jill?
That's like
Is it
county
county?
funded.
Is that the assistant?
She is the full-time administrator for the office.
Okay, she's a full-time administrator.
He is the 4-H assistant. So it's basically maintaining the same budget with minor asks for increased needs, such as office supplies, awards, and then with more people going out of the after school. Just to get more in there. Because after school is essentially defined as anything outside of school. So if it's a summer program, or it's after school, or if it's an evening program, those all go into the after school section.
And this is a big bump just because we added that other position last year. So that's why the difference between the 23 and 24. It's reasonable.
Yeah, and that 4-H
That's very
Pops out at
reasonable.
me.
That 4-H assistant position has been really good at balancing the workload in the office, and so thank you for that. That's really, it's been great for not only getting work programs out there, but also just like the dynamics of who's doing what. And then that administrator position that's supporting all the programs, essentially when they so many directions.
How's the building working for you guys? Been in there now, what, a year?
Yeah, almost a year. Building's good. Yeah, I think it's a great location. It feels really good to be close to town. The internet is better, but it's still not easy. I don't know if that's because it's Cascade or there's still some things to work out.
Are you on the network? You should be on the network, so.
But just from where my office is over to the other side of the kitchen, I don't know. I'm not as close as the other folks in the office, and it seems like there's a delay. And I do speed checks and stuff every now and then when it freezes up.
Have you let Jeremy know?
Yeah.
Sounds like a wiring issue.
Well, they could probably put a booster in there or something to get boosted over to your office. How long ago did you get a hold of Jeremy on that?
I came up with a plan that I was going to do speed tests every time it happened and then email the speed test, and I have not followed through with doing any email the speed tests. So I followed up with that. I've just kind of gotten, I guess, complacent to the internet speed.
Well, and it's probably, it sounds like the speed test isn't really showing anything anyway. And I,
Yeah, I think it was showing that it wasn't. But then when he came in to help me, it was a great connection. So,
Of course.
like going to the doctor. Well, thank you for breaking all of this out. This makes sense. Sounds like the new employee was a good fit, so.
any other questions?
Oh, this looks great. Appreciate that. Yeah, you're not asking for that much.
Yeah, I've included some impact statements. And then in the highlights, I pulled out the Allison Stats impact statement this year. So that's something that we haven't done before, which is wonderful. It was nice to see her highlight her work in a more formal way. For the university. So that's called The Sky's the Limit, and it was documenting her partner grant section, what kind of programming she did during that time. So yeah, I guess just in kind of walking through this, I pulled out James Elmore, the digital economy, and then pulled out some of the information about programming I've done. Highlighted the impact statements. I'll send you these electronic copies too, and you can follow the links. And then kind of delineated some of the stuff that's on our plate as far as workload, and highlighted some of the current and new programs that were implemented in the past year, both for my programming as well as 4-H. And then some short-term goals. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
We'll take time to read it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you.
and Gabby, in your opinion, I know you work on the budget a lot. These are all new reports for us. Is there anything that will be odd to us? No, do we need a little training on how to,
Still kind of working through it ourselves,
okay,
but we have no plan, nothing to figure out exactly what it is. We thought that it would already be showing here, but it's not, so we got some tweaking to figure out.
Yeah, so commissioners, the plan is you'll have this in front of you, or I'm gonna pull this on the board. And then what you'll have here on the comparison one budget on this FY '25, this is gonna be the requested amounts that the departments make. And if you have any questions regarding any of the expenditures from fiscal year 2024, I will have the ability to go in and tell you what those expenses up to date are. So it will be nice to have, but we are still trying to just finalize how we can get the requested amounts in order for you guys to review them. And then there should provide us with a percentage increase or decrease from the previous fiscal year.
oh, that would be helpful.
So it'll be nice.
And then the comparison two budget will be the finalized budget?
So the comparison one, this is just gonna be the final requested amounts.
But there's a two, she's.
We go over to the
We
right.
can do it however.
Yeah, we
you
can,
want.
so-
We gotta kind of like set up what you want that
Okay.
two to be, so.
Well, that helps me out, and I'm kind of
If we
the
make some
old-fashioned guy where I
increases
can
or
look
something, that would make
what we
sense.
budgeted last year, what they're asking for this year, and then
Right.
figure out those reasons.
And so at the end of the day, we'll get something that actually has a finalized budget on there.
Yes,
Okay.
you will.
Sheet's too big to show everything. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna move on. If we're done with this, thanks, Gabby. Next agenda item is not an action item. This is a LID workshop. Brian, are you doing this one?
So, and honestly, this is probably on me, but
Okay.
when you did the listing of these, of the LID and how to proceed, did you send it to everybody? I don't remember.
Clear back in March, I sent it to just the three of you.
Okay. So what this is on here for is to have a little bit of a discussion. So LIDs, the limited improvement districts, are ones that people are starting to have, they keep coming to us with requests to improve their roads and the stuff within their subdivision. And we've always told them, you guys need to get together and, form an HOA, charge, put funding together for yourselves and be able to set this up yourself. And so I had Brian do some research work on how to create an LID so that as people come in, we actually will have a manual on how to set this up for them. And they can go back in their HOA and say, yes, we would like to go ahead and put together a funding mechanism to improve our roads. Or how do they want to improve it? I'm not seeing the actual one that Brian did for me. I'm gonna have to go look for it. I apologize for not being ready.
March 28th was the date on the memo, so probably send it out the same day or.
We have one. Don't we just have one LID right now we collect? Or
Jug
two?
Mountain.
I don't know.
We have Jug Handle, and we have an irrigation district
Yeah.
that we collect every year.
North Lake Sewer has an LID that they operate independent of us, but.
Right, yeah, we don't collect anything.
So we're just a house that runs money in, runs money out. It doesn't
Here we
really
go.
do us any good.
Okay, I'm sending this to you right now.
Well, I can tell you years ago, the discussion we had is we didn't want to do any more LIDs because all it does is make more work for county employees. There's little or no compensation for collecting the tax or the fee or whatever that was. So we just decided that that's kind of when we came up with the idea that if a bunch of homeowners wanted to work on their road, they can make an agreement with the road department. We're going to give you $100,000. We'll buy the oil. For example, if the road department will pave it, they'll provide the gravel and mix it, do all that. And that's how it worked. It wasn't an LID, it wasn't official, but, and I think that worked for a while. We got a few projects done that way. But I think, doesn't an LID have to be voted on?
So to form an LID, there's two methods of doing it. One is you as the county commissioners can start the process by resolution, or preferably it would be a petition from the homeowners to create the LID. Now, in order to actually form the LID, you would have to have notice, a public hearing, and then at the end of the process would be promulgation of an ordinance that would describe the boundaries, what the additional assessment would be for all the property owners within the boundaries of the LID. So it's a fairly complicated process, and there's a lot of steps to follow, from the beginning idea to the completion of it. But that's all outlined in the memo that I sent to you for the process. In putting this memo together, I looked at what some other counties have done, both counties and cities. They have developed like an FAQ website or link on their website that kind of goes through some of the basics of what an LID is, how you can form it, how you can organize as a neighborhood if this is something you want to do. And then they've created the forms, kind of fillable forms for people to fill out to make it a little bit easier for citizens to understand the process and to create the forms. If that's something you all want to do. It's been done by other bigger cities and more populated
So the
counties.
county pays for all the publication and the public hearings and all that,
Correct.
but there is no election. You said there was two ways. What was the other way?
By resolution, you could take it up on your own
A
initiative.
resolution or a petition then?
A resolution is one way, a petition is the other way. But you still have to have a public hearing. Everybody would be impacted by this has an opportunity to object to it, come to the public hearing, submit written comments, and then you as the board have to make the determination through a vote of the three of you as to whether to enact the ordinance to make it official.
So all the people in that LID would be notified? I'm
Yes.
assuming that would be Cinda's job or your job?
Mhm.
That's where the work comes in, is that kind of stuff. And
Right.
we just felt like, gosh, I don't know if this is really,
Well, it could be
Worth it.
also the road department. I mean, so where I'm looking at this is we've had all of these people come in and go, you need to fix our road. Well, the county's not gonna fix your road with property tax dollars. This would be one avenue if a subdivision wanted to get together. What is the one on West Wind? They are very concerned all the time about their stuff. So there's two avenues of thought. One, we get a levy going in the county where everyone pays in if we can get it approved to actually do road improvement work. The other one is if you have a subdivision that you want your roads improved, then an LID could be an option for your subdivision to go in. You tax yourselves and all of that money stays right there on the footprint of your subdivision. Brian, I had one question. I can't remember. Does this have to be only in city impact areas or can this be countywide?
It can be countywide. It can be
Okay.
within any boundary that you create via ordinance.
Okay. So
So they would tax themselves?
tax themselves,
That's where their funding would come
Be-
from.
right? So on
we
your
would
property,
collect the tax.
Right.
It'd be on your tax roll for that district and then reimburse it. Who?
it would have to
Department,
be,
those are,
it would have to be an HOA set up.
The way I envision it, Commissioner Hasbrook, is that if an LID is approved, then the county would collect that additional assessment and set that aside into an account, and then the county would oversee the project the LID was intended to
the road project.
do. Right, we're more than probably 99% of what we're talking about here is some type of a road improvement project. So we could either through our road department do the work itself and use that pool of funds to fund it, but more likely we would contract that out. So we would put that out as a public works construction project, go through the whole bidding process, find the right contractor through that process to complete the project, and then you'd have a source of funding that would pay for that specific project, and then the people within the LID would benefit from that. So their role really is that they either need to decide whether they want to impose this additional assessment on their property tax bill to fund a project or an ongoing project, and then we would actually oversee the improvement until it's completed.
So I'm not for or against it. I think you make a good point, the fact that this would kind of take some of the heat off of us to solve other people's issues. But my concern is, okay, we want to pave 2 miles of road in our subdivision. We're going to tax ourselves $50 a year. Well, that's not going to be enough to do that project. So it's a multi-year until those funds are raised that will pay to do that project. Okay, you go in, you do the project, you pay the road. Is that the end of the LID?
So my
That
understanding,
it's over with?
is that the county would have the option of bonding for that work up front. So we would actually go out, we would create the bond to sell and get the money
Okay.
up front, and then that bond payment is made with the collection of annual
That makes more
taxes.
sense because you're going to get a cheaper project that first year instead of waiting. When does the LID end?
So to your point, Commissioner Mopin, that is anticipated in the statute that the county can do upfront interim financing or funding for a certain project, and then the LID would go into effect, and you would be collecting that over the years until that project was completed. So there would be a date certain for when the LID would end, once the project is paid for, and then there'd be no reason for you to continue on and collect those additional fees.
Then you would end the LID, it's over with, and everything stops.
That's my
My
understanding.
concern is if you had, I'm gonna say 100 lot owners, and only 30 of them wanted to do it, the rest of them didn't.
Yeah.
How do you prove that point without an election?
So I recall something in the research that I did that required at least 60% approval.
Yeah, 66 and
So,
2/3.
so I think and again,
Petition would be 60%.
it's been a while since I put this
Yeah.
together, so I'm going off of memory. So forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head, but
I apologize. I put this on a date I should not have put it because I would have been more prepared if I would have been here last week. So
there
it's fine.
is, yes, there is an approval process that requires a percentage of those that would be impacted by that. Maybe it's the petition process to get it going, but it can proceed forward without a vote of the group. That's the flip side, and that's the warning that I put it right on the very front that says the procedural process and the steps that you have to follow, you need to follow that to an exacting to the T, because that is what ensures that everybody has their due process rights protected, because there isn't a vote. You're not going to the polls to vote like you would normally in a levy. And so you have to follow these notice and these hearing requirements, so everybody who's impacted by that has an opportunity to come and stand at the podium that I'm standing at and tell you whether they're for or against it, or provide you written explanation for what their position is, and then you have to make the decision whether or not you want to enact this LID or not, based on the evidence that's presented to you.
And, I'm not sure, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we are faced with a petition, we have to do something.
You should act on a petition,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we have to do something, but
Yeah.
if it's our idea to say, hey, we're gonna do an LID through resolution,
Right.
we don't have to do that. We can.
No, you will no, the public hearing is always a requirement.
Well, I realize that,
Yeah.
but I mean, the petition forces our hand, where if we
Oh, correct.
come up
Yes.
with a resolution, it's only on.
Yes, it gives you two options. One is you can start this process by your own resolution, and then you start the public hearing, the notice, and all of those steps. Or I said preferably from the standpoint of, when people want this and they're asking you to do this, that they do that through petition, and that might be an easier way for you to get
Well,
through
so the
that.
way Jeff's been doing some of these subdivision pavements, they buy the oil and he provides the gravel and
Get up.
equipment. But if you've got a really high dollar cost, they can't come up with it in 1 year. This would allow a 2 or 3 or 4 year LID.
Right.
We could bond the first year, pay the road, and then they pay it back.
So,
But if it's just $100,000 job,
yeah.
there should be some kind of MOU just with the road department or a contract or something.
Yeah.
That would be the easiest way.
That is,
So this we make one of these go in place, and Johanna's gotta collect the money through their office and funnel it to road
correct.
department.
Well, she does that for
It's-
Jug General. She does it for whatever irrigation district it is. I think it's Lake
Yeah.
Fork Irrigation. She
Two of
collects
them right
money
now
for that.
that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how much more work we do by putting more stuff.
Well, I think where the work comes in is, first of all, notification. It's a 300 lot sub that want their roads. Who's gonna send out all those landowners a notification? Is that CINDA? Is that road department? They're the ones that go, whoa, this is not,
And how many of them are gonna look at us and say, aren't you guys responsible for taking care of our roads? You know.
So the answer to that is, we don't, there is no property tax that supports roads.
Right.
And so their property taxes are not currently paying for roads. So this is, you
But
can
people
tax
think
yourself.
that.
I know they do, it's an education.
oh, their
You know,
gas
as we move
tax
forward.
is what's paying for the road department.
Yep.
Gas tax and grants.
SRS right now. But, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to find
Yeah.
mechanisms that are out there to allow people, if they want to do this. I mean, we already have one request, potentially two requests of people that want to put money toward paving roads. And there's really not a mechanism for us to do that. If a subdivision, so and that's the other question, so if a subdivision comes in, I'm gonna use Westwind again, because they're the ones that have really complained. So we use this tool, they tax themselves to pay back the bond, it's paved. Normally that pavement's gonna last 10 years, 20 years, I don't know. Probably that with razors on it.
Depends on what's underneath.
So
it.
what's that next step? So we've paid for the initial pavement up front, and now we have a paved road that people have an expectation we're gonna take care of once it's paved. And
Why, I'm just being hypothetical, but why not allow the subdivision to subcontract with somebody to come in and pave their own roads and we're out of it? We just give them the permission to go ahead and pave that road. And a road, because the road department isn't gonna do that work, it's gonna be a contractor. I don't know, I'm just,
So they could go contract with like one of these two guys we just dealt with right here.
remember the guy last year that paved down in Round Valley that stripped in front of his house, paid for the whole thing. And he did it, it was down on 60 Lane, I think.
Huh.
And it was a strip out in front of his house because he was tired of the dust. Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, if people want to pay for it and do it, that's fine. But I don't think it's fair to say road department's got to go pave that. No, it's going to be a contract.
on a contract, all's we're dealing with right now is what's the funding mechanism behind it?
So if you went to those people in Wildwoods and said, you guys can pave your roads, you raise the money, you are the contractor, Jeff can work with you if there's, you know, I think we could meet him halfway and say, we'll replace any rotten culverts first. We'll do that kind of work first, get it bladed and ready to go, and then, I don't know, you know.
What this does is it allows us to go out and get a large pool of funds up front, do the work and pay it back over time, which is different than what an HOA would be able to do, where they would have to have, you know, it might be $5,000 a house, and most people won't be able to come up with that upfront funding that way.
Yeah.
So this is a funding mechanism that
Yep.
just allow people the opportunity. I mean, we've got a lot of complaints in Wagon Wheel because a lot of that stuff is not, we didn't require the developers to do it up front when those subdivisions went in, or planning and zoning wasn't even in place then. This is a mechanism that we could go out to a public hearing and just say, you guys want to improve your roads. It's not going to happen in Valley County's funding structure unless we get a levy. But this would allow you the opportunity, come together, make a decision as a subdivision. We will help you get a bond, pay it back over time. So that bond could hire the contractor. It doesn't need to be our road department that does it.
Correct.
I mean, it just gives us the funding mechanism to do it.
This allows bigger, more expensive projects to happen.
Yes, the LID system is purely a funding, it's a funding mechanism. It's an additional assessment on the property tax rolls for those property owners who are within the LID boundary, and that can be defined however you want to define that. The one thing that I think that is important in the conversation and making improvements is that if the funding comes through the county and we oversee the construction process, then we ensure that these are improvements that are being made to public roads. And so there are engineering standards and quality control issues that we can ensure by in overseeing that they get built to the correct specifications and that we don't end up with a substandard improvement being built that we then have the responsibility later on to maintain, which may.
Well, and we're facing that right now.
Right.
Because we're having to go back in and grind some of this pavement because it's coming apart.
Yeah.
And lay it down as a base and then put an overlay of new pavement.
Yeah.
That's how you build that base up, really over hundreds of years. But my thing is that there's some upfront expenses that the county's gonna incur to do an LID, the notification process, the advertising process. Can we charge some kind of an upfront fee to get started?
One thing that if you go back and find the documents that I provided to you back in March, there was a memo that kind of outlined what the statute requires us to do, and then there's a flow chart which I think can be helpful too if you are visual in the way that you like to learn and absorb information. But there's also an example ordinance from Ada County where they had gone through the LID process all the way to completion and then had promulgated an ordinance. I borrowed their example ordinance, and you'll see in the preamble of that ordinance that their intention was to use a portion of those assessments to reimburse the county for their administrative costs, including the legal costs,
Okay.
the assessor's adjustments that need to be made, the treasurer's collection processes. So
So you gotta
all
reimburse that way.
yeah, all that is identified in the ordinance itself on how you will charge those costs to the individual property owners, and that gives them the information up front. And again, this is a substitute for going to the polls and voting on a levy. So you have to have this protest hearing to give people the opportunity to come and say, I'm opposed to this and I don't want it.
Just like a public hearing.
Just like a public hearing. And again, forgive me, I don't know what the exact statute says, but I will refresh my memory. But I believe if you have more than 60% of the property owners that are going to be assessed that are in opposition, you may not be able to move forward on it.
2/3.
I just think that this is an interesting tool to use as people come in this year on BOE again. We're going to hear the same thing. My road's a mess. It impacts our values. Well, here's a tool. And I told people I would figure out what an LID would do for them. This is a tool that your subdivision could come together and be able to do this to improve these roads. The other thing, technically, this could be used, I think, for the S Bridge. Anybody that goes on the other side of the S Bridge, you bond it, you get all the money up front, everybody pays it back over time. But this is one funding mechanism that I think we all need to research and learn how that this could be useful in our community.
Yeah. I don't know this for certain, but I believe that it's a fairly common tool for water and sewer system improvements, and I know North Lake has an LID in place right now. I don't know about Payette, but this ordinance that I grabbed from Ada was actually for a water system upgrade for a certain geographic area.
Not that I'm promoting this, but what's the difference between a group of homeowners doing this versus a road district, their own little road district?
Creating a road district, well,
Is that an election?
yeah. I don't have the code in front of me, but basically the jurisdiction over public roads can either be through county, city, or you can form these highway districts. So in Ada County, they have the Ada County Highway District that has
Yeah.
specific oversight over public roads in Ada County. A little different in Valley County where we have just Valley County as the jurisdictional.
And then you look at Idaho County, it has 13 road districts.
And I think the difference
They all
between
have their own equipment.
these two reasons to do this, an LID is site specific.
Yes.
For a specific project, it's going to have an end date. And taxpayers don't mind that sometimes. A levy goes on forever, a road district goes on forever. And a road district, you're funding their board, you're funding administration,
Yep.
which an LID
Yep.
doesn't. So I think some areas, when we're getting all of this, true heat about this road's a mess. Well, maybe West Mountain people would be okay if we paved West Mountain with this type of a tool and they paid it back over time. It's very site specific. This is the project. This is exactly how much it's going to cost to do it. We'll go out and sell the bonds and then we pay it back over time. Instead of just putting a tax on people in perpetuity with no end game.
Did you have a one-person LID or a one-owner LID? Basically, what we're doing, we're playing the bank for that group of people. We'll store your money till you get enough to do the job.
Well, we'll
I don't
bond
know
the
if it'll
money.
work for one.
I don't think we
I
would
don't-
approve that.
I'm
know
I'm
why
trying to
we
think of the
Someone
scenario
has
where,
proclaimed,
where,
hey, I could
where,
do my own LID.
I suppose.
Well, in that scenario, you could as a one entity, you could also go out and put a home equity loan on your house and pay it back over time. It's exactly the same thing. It's all just the funding mechanism.
That's all I'm gonna-
This is just a tool to come together and basically these bonds are the bank for a group of people.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think I think the concept is that the county has the infrastructure in place to manage and oversee the LID as opposed to individual property owners. I would suspect that you're not going to get unanimous support for
No.
something like this. You're going to have some protesters that are going to come to tell you why they don't want that additional assessment if you do go this route. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the infrastructure's here to get the public works project completed once the financing's in place to get it done.
So Sherry, what you might think about it, maybe printing off a bunch of these and when people ask, here it is, this is how you do it.
That's what I was gonna say. We should probably have this as a nice glossy
It's a good start
deal.
as a
In the
handout.
back, yeah, and just as people ask these questions, we hand it out and say, this is the process and see what interest there is.
Yeah.
Well, we
And-
all know that there's certain people out there that they don't mind paying a levy for roads. They're ready to go right now, but there's other people that aren't.
And if there's enough people in the surrounding area that they can get a petition in place and submit it to the county, then we've kind of got the outline of what the procedural steps are that need to happen in order to complete it. So they can take the initiative to.
What I'm wondering, Brian, is if we should create a blank petition as well.
Yeah, forms are nice because
That way, everything, just hand them the whole packet, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
It will be interesting over the next couple of years to have the conversation. Is the entire county ready to do a road levy and fund overall projects? Or would they prefer to do this site-specific, exactly what it's going to cost up front, exactly what the repayment is? And so it's just two different funding mechanisms. One's more broad, one's very precise for precise areas.
Well, you know-
to do stuff, but
The other day, I was thinking about this. I pay about $1,200 a year to oil the corner in front of my house. About 600 feet of road oiling. And it's yours behind. It lasts all summer. It's not main chloride. But I wonder what my taxes would be for a levy rate to get my road paid. Then it's like, I don't think it would be $1,200.
I was having a conversation with someone within the road department. And his comment was, so if we were to pave some of these roads that are real problem roads, you got a 15 or 20-year return on that investment versus going out every single year and having to do the dirt work on it, you know, trying to do all of that. And over 15 or 20 years, how much are we spending to do that when we could have had a paved road in the first place? So that, I also don't know what it would cost then to fix all the potholes in a paved road or, you know, do all the chip seal and all of that kind of stuff. But there is a conversation to be had about the way we're currently doing things and what the value on time and an investment would be.
Well, and we saw a really good example of today, opening those paving job bids, what the difference is when you get competition up there.
Yeah.
Some of those bids were almost 200,000 apart. And it's like, boy, it's great to have competition now. It's bringing those down a little bit.
I was amazed at those price differences.
Yeah. A lot. If you had 10 of those companies up there, it'd probably be even cheaper.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, I appreciated the work. Again, I apologize for not being prepared. I would have been a little more prepared if I would have been here last week, but
No, happy
couldn't do
to,
that, so.
happy to help where I can. And,
And this was specifically requested by people from the community, so now we have the information that they need.
Yep.
I'll work on that when I get back in June and, you know, come up with some glossies that we can actually hand out and describe the process a little bit more. But I also think we just need to keep this in the back of our mind. LIDs are a way of funding site-specific, you know, one-time investments and getting the work done and then repaying it over time.
Well, and I like the fact too that it kind of puts the workload back on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On the owners.
you gotta get the petition, you go out and meet your neighbors. And
Keeps us out of the picture, but just out of that part.
I can do it that way, yeah. Or there could be an area that Joe says, I just can't get this road to hold together. And we go out and we talk to them and we do it by ordinance. Or resolution, but.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian, do you have any idea when you're gonna do the Warren Wagon, the shooting range meeting? Have you,
yes, Katrina was working on the notice. I think, I don't know when we're going to get that in place, but we're shooting for early June to have the public hearing. We've got a 15-day, we've got to have the notice published in the paper 15 days in advance.
okay,
So
perfect. I kinda like to
probably
get
won't
it
be
in.
this week that we'll get the notice published, but the following week. So 15 days out from there.
So we're gonna set up a shooting range down on Warren Way.
No, we're not.
No.
So if it was done before the 4th, that'd be great to have signage up before the 4th of July.
4th of July. Yeah.
But,
We'll-
there's just a lot of people that would like to come to the meeting to testify.
Okay.
I've already gotten like 15 letters, but
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of people that I think would attend if they know when, far enough in advance.
Yeah, that is, obviously you've indicated that's a priority, so I have been working on that, but have had some work for the assessor that is time sensitive. I've got 2 more days to finish my work, and then I can shift and work on
Thanks,
that,
guys.
so.
I mean, all it needs is a little sign that says, go down past Bear Creek Lodge, take a left, go right up to that gravel pit area. In fact, Forest Service even set up X flats out there. 1,000-yard shoot.
I know that there's someplace out there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we'd send them to Hasbrook Lane myself, but
well, I'll tell you what, I can almost guarantee you're gonna have some anti-gun folks or whatever I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah.
They're not gonna like it.
we're not trying to take away their guns. They just
No.
need to do it in a safe place. That's the bottom line.
How are ya?
Good afternoon.
Good to see you again.
Come forward, be back here.
We got about 5 minutes before we can start. You can come on up and sit down. Larry, come on up and sit down with him.
We got you a big chair over there,
Says, I don't
Larry.
want to be, I don't want to be part of this.
Just getting out of it, huh?
Dave, you guys started burning yet?
We're a little bit out at 4 miles on the South Fork.
How'd they go?
Oh, good. It's like an 800-acre
I know how
wildlife. We were able to burn
I know that.
east of Yellow Pine and up where the profile
Yeah.
comes down. There's a little chunk there that we probably got 400
You're
acres.
good? Did it turn out pretty good?
I mean, it was still early. It was patchy, but I mean, it was kind of get small windows
It's
and
amazing because the wind came up last week and I thought, man, we're gonna be turning on the water here pretty quick. It's gonna get dry. I'm glad you guys weren't running 2 or 3 days ago. 'Cause,
I know
man, it
other
was
places are yesterday and the day before today, and just on me, but
Are you expecting anybody else?
not from the forest.
So then we're gonna go ahead, Doug. Are we still on? Okay, we're gonna move on down our agenda. Our next item is not an action item. This is a National Forest presentation on the East Fork of the South Fork Restoration and Access Management Plan, commonly known as the RAMP. Dave, welcome. Good to see you again. As you know, there's been a lot of controversy in this area for, I think since Anthony was back there, maybe even before Anthony. Otello, remember Anthony?
15 years now.
About as long as I've been on this board.
I think Senator Crapo ordered that. That was, 14 years ago.
Is that Senator Crapo?
Yeah. Yeah, he got involved with one of the judges, and there we started 8 years worth of
Yeah.
collaboration, or what was supposed to be collaboration.
So were we in like a travel management process, plan process, or where are we in your process?
You bet. Thanks for letting me be on your agenda. I'll start with that. And folk, and this is probably in Team's world or not. I'm Dave Hogan. I'm the district ranger on Crossville Ranger District. So thanks for having me. Yep, as you said, El, we'll be talking about Fork South Fork Restoration and Access Management Plan project. Third one of those. We did the Big Creek ramp, South Fork ramp, and now the East Fork South Fork ramp. As Larry and you guys were talking about, a lot of collaboration, a lot of effort over the years. It's been a long-standing project on the 3 different areas, and this is the third one. We received recommendations from the collaborative, probably, I have to look exact date, 2020, somewhere around there. You know, people were still working hard and kind of, I think there's a little bit of energy that probably that third one, people had put so much into the first 2, that third one had to work a little bit harder to get a product out of the group. And, but we have that, and that's where it's one of the alternatives considered. So right now, last week, we released the draft environmental assessment out to the public for public comment. So that happened on May 7th. It's on our project's website. Hopefully, some deer interested letters went out to like the 400 or 500 people on our drug delivery mailing list. And there's links in there to the documents. They're on our website. And then there's also what we call a story map, which is another link that you can kind of page through and get information, but also it puts 2 alternatives next to each other in a mapping tool. And you can like zoom into the road that you're interested in, and it'll show you on the other alternative what it is. Like today, you can click on it. It'll tell you what the road number is, tell you what its status is, and then you can scroll down and look at the different alternatives, how that changes across those alternatives.
Great document, really well put together.
So that's how it's a 30-day comment period. I understand it's always tight, lots of things. Larry's let me know everybody's hitting them with all these projects all at once, but I'm just glad to get it out finally. No, the plan is finally aligned, and we were able to get it out to the public to take a look at it. And instead of being really generic when we scoped it like 2 or 3 years ago now, this is very site specific. This is down to individual segments of routes in our database. You go on that story map, you can make it interactive and really get down to like, is my camping site, you can put a satellite imagery behind it. You can, so it's really interactive instead of just a hard copy map that for 100,000 acres, this would be very, very difficult to know, you know, if you're really on your spot. So you can, it's really interactive. I think it is a good tool, but people do have to use it electronically. You do have to log in. It's no access, no like special password or anything. I did hear it was, maybe the website was down for maintenance or something this weekend, but I did confirm it's back up again today. What I was hoping to do is just go over kind of big picture on the 4 different alternatives. Make sure you guys are aware of this project. I know it's super important over the years, these 3 different ramp projects, and this is that third one, or yeah, the third one of the 3.
So it's covering 100,000 acres?
100,000 acres, from the mouth of the East Fork of the South Fork, moving up past Yellow Pine, up around Stibnite, and then actually all the way out to Thunder Mountain area also, but not including the Boise. So this is only a pay-at project. We did look at some of the connectedness, like when you're going up Johnson Creek and some of those motorized trails and how they connect in with the forest. We did coordinate with the Boise, and so that's something we tried to do. If they have a trail open to all vehicles coming up and over, then the collaborative looked at that, gave us some feedback, and then we looked at it and we have those reflected in the alternatives, we feel like.
So you're talking about, like, say, if it came from Boise side to Payette or vice versa.
Correct.
I mean, you guys are working together to keep a lot of the trails open because people use them, and that's what we look at for recreation, for hunters, for you name it. Trails, roads, that's what we look at because we get that input back from our constituents. Are they going to be closing this road? That fires people up, and you know that.
Yeah, and so, this document, if you just look at it from, I want 0 road decommissioning and I want 100% everything possible to be drivable, even if it's a mining road that's had trees growing in it for 20 years or 50 years or 2 years, whatever it is, probably that's going to be polarized. Even the collaborative was polarized on what they could come up with agreement to give us as a recommendation. So you will see in this document, there's 4 different alternatives. Alternative A is our no action alternative. It has a lot of, and I have the stats here, I can get into them, but I won't get into them. Let's say approximately 60 miles of what we call the unauthorized routes. So those were historically, likely in this area, some mining, exploration, mainly mining exploration is what I would guess. And so the ones that the collaborative worked with, their group with, they came back to us and said, these routes that are showing up as unauthorized are important to us. We've been driving them. We want them to be part of your official motorized travel system. Those are reflected in alternative B, C, and D. All 3 of those action alternatives are carried across there. Like Quartz Creek is an area up out of Yellow Pine there. You go up Quartz Creek. The first little bit of it is a trail open to all vehicles. Then it switches to an ATV 50-inch or less. Then there's an offshoot that goes up to the right, up to Red Mountain, and that one is an unauthorized route. People have been driving on it for a long time. And so that's in the collaborative to go up, do a loop, make that official 50-inch or less trail under the collaboratives, Alt C. It's our alternative, but it's on Alt C. And then the other alternatives actually look at it for 70-inch or less, because we heard so much in that scoping period of consider a range of some uses. And so areas that we had enough of a tread that we could do that, then we had a variety of alternatives considered so we can make a final decision when we get down to it.
From the collaborative side, this is not like any collaborative I've ever been involved in before, because this one had even like Quartz Creek. So if we wanted to open up an area, we had to obliterate or decommission other areas. So we had to have offsets. And so they'd give you so many points of offsets to open this. It wasn't, this is open. It wasn't the other way around. It was always, we had to find the offsets. And it was a huge job because some of that stuff back there, even though it was listed for obliteration, it had trees that were 12 inches around growing through it. And even the tribes didn't want to see that happen because there was more, there'd be more damage to the resource than leaving it the way it was. But it just made it really difficult to pick trails and roads. We went back and forth so many times I can't even tell you. And there's some here that are, C is definitely what the collaborative came up with. Remember, the collaborative never made a decision on Sugar Creek and a few others because we couldn't get a decision in any way.
So let's talk about those 2. I think Sugar Creek used to be a pretty famous, fun route for a lot of motorized recreation. How do we affect that closure, Dave? How can we get that one back?
So in this document, it has a range of alternatives being considered. So the current condition, it's what we call a maintenance level 2 administrative and permitted use. So you drive out there, you're going to come across up to the forest boundary, and there's a gate. And then I think in 2016 or 2018, somewhere around there, they rehabbed the ford behind the gate. So there was a stream crossing. People were still going through it. So they put the gate in, did some erosion control on Sugar Creek Road, rehabbed the ford, and then put a gate up at the Oberbillig property,
At the front.
which would be his back door. It'd be that north end, kind of
Oh, okay.
closest to on the Forest Service boundary, kind of in that area. And so right now, alternative B actually moves toward a closed status, which would be an ML1. So it'd actually be more closure than just the gate, because the road hasn't had a lot of maintenance on it. So it's starting to have more boulders come down on it, and really Perpetua goes behind the gate a little bit. Nez Perce Tribe gets a permit to go behind the gate a little bit, but they go back there with like four-wheelers or on super limited activities. Everybody else has to walk, or they have to ride their pedal bike
Or a horse.
or a horse. So then alternatives C, like Larry was saying, there was no agreement in the collaborative. So it's leave it as this maintenance level 2 administrative and permitted use only. Gate stays in. No more work really gets done on the road. It just stays what it is. And then alternative D actually considers opening the Sugar Creek Road up to public access up to the Oberbillig property. It looks at doing what the work would need to be due to actually drive high class pickup on that road today, and the cost to do that, and that'd be installed and some other stuff. And so it is being considered. So I mean, you guys could definitely, however you want to respond to that, that's up to you guys of how you want to respond, but that's the range of alternatives considered. We didn't consider it as an ATV trail. You could tell us that. We did not consider it as a UTV less than 70 inch. You could ask us that. So it's really up to you guys what you could ask it to be. A county road, I know that's came up over the years, and
I don't think we want to really take that road on as a county, but I could certainly see it as an ATV or UTV, depending on the shape of the road. But one of the issues that we're looking at is not only summer use, but in the wintertime, we're trying to increase recreation, snowmobiles back into that yellow pine, because those people are screaming for economic.
Well, I did find a
It's
document
not happening.
that the Forest Service and the collaborative approved. It was an engineered document for hardening the edges of that road to try to help Sugar Creek.
Sugar Creek.
Yeah. And I don't know whatever happened to that. We spent a lot of money on it. I know the Forest Service did. But I do have that document if you want me to send that to you too.
Well, as you know, there's a lot of issues throughout the valley where we've lost UTV, ATV, motorized recreation, even bikes or walking, because it's been closed and obliterated. And I'm afraid what we're doing is we're jamming everybody up down into these smaller areas, and it's destroying the resource. You know that as well as I do, and we've got to figure out a way to spread these people out so we don't destroy the resources. That's why everybody went, is for the resource, and we don't want to wreck it while we're out there. But the economic driver for Yellow Pine is hurting. Those people it's not going very well. I think Perpetua is probably going to help them a little bit if they get open and they get going. But there was a trail from Yellow Pine to Meadow Creek Lookout. We looked at that on the Roadless Rules Commission and decided that one probably shouldn't stay, because it was really kind of a rough, straight up kind of lots of damage to the resource. So we let that one go. But I think there's an opportunity where we can protect the resource and provide motorized recreation. We need to do it. Spread these people out. We get another 2,000 or 3,000 riders every year. It's just gonna go.
That's the tough part of this is we're dealing with a 30-year-old system. We're not adding parking lots. We're not adding trails, but we're adding 50% more users and expecting everything to stay the same, and it doesn't. And especially with the equipment people are using nowadays, it's a lot
We're
tougher.
just making moon dust everywhere.
Yes, it is.
And Dave, when you're looking at these types of plans, how do you take into account the county's recreation programming?
So, I mean, we definitely, through this, this comment period, we'll hear loud and clear what you think of what we're proposing. I mean, that's one thing. I guess out in that area, that's a good question.
We are
But
going to
it's-
start doing some resource management planning ourselves. And so we would invite you guys to the table because we are going to be looking at these areas and looking at our footprint on them and our economic activity in those areas and want to partner. But we want an acknowledgement that the county has resources out there that have, that we have programming in those areas that we want acknowledged. And so closing roads that actually are part of our snowmobiling program or a part of our summer recreation use, that's going to be a problem for us.
I think what hurt the Crassel more than anything was when they formed the CLRFP, is that right? Crassel wasn't included in it. So they're doing research on the whole rest of the forest. And the Crassel was just like the little bad guys. They're over there all by themselves. Nobody giving them any attention. And now we finally got a project and we really don't have a collaborative anymore to do it. But the word is out. I've seen a lot of really good comments that we'll be coming into.
Well, I really appreciate the flexibility. Yeah, we'll listen to you. Because it kind of, for a while, it felt like, we put in comments or we'd say something and it was just dropped. It just got lost in the system. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to listen and take comments into consideration. We can't keep shutting it down when we're expanding the population and use. You just can't do that.
And we know that roads, if you leave them alone, they're gonna decommission themselves.
A lot of truth to that.
They just do. And I guess for me, it's like, I hate to see all that money go in there and take a cat or whatever and destroy a road when it's gonna decommission itself if you leave it alone. I mean, it overgrows. I see back up where we go over toward French Creek and some of those old logging roads, they just growed in. They're impassable. And unless somebody keeps them open, which that costs a lot of money too.
And the good part of that is the users, because that's really what it comes down to. As long as the Forest Service will work with the users have, even though we didn't get it done legislative this year, next year we're going to go from $10 for an OHP tag to $20, which will double the amount of money IDPR, who does the most maintenance on these trails, will have a lot more money and a lot more equipment to do maintenance, and that'll help the forest quite a bit so they can keep things open.
Well, and there's collaboratives also. Citra does a lot of work. Simba
Citra's
does
amazing.
a lot of work on keeping all of those trails open. So it's not just county, it's not just the state. We have local entities that are willing to do this in support of our recreation programs. And so, I agree that if a road is not being used, if an area is not being used and is not part of our plan, if it grows over, then that one should be decommissioned. Obviously, nobody's using it. But it's the ones that I've seen that people are saying, we're going to close this road, and it may impact our recreation opportunities. And I have great concern with that. I have great concern, honestly, with the MOG these material growth. Nobody really knows what that looks like yet. And the Forest Service, in my opinion, is not using a proper path. They're not even doing a regular NEPA for that stuff. So as a county, it's going to become more and more our responsibility to raise our hands and say, hey, you're doing this to us. And we need to figure out a good partnership moving forward on how we do this work.
You're well aware of the MOG that's thrown from Washington.
Old growth portal that we have to submit our projects for. They get reviewed, yeah.
They're saying they're doing it by rulemaking, not changing the travel plans, and yet they really are.
Yeah, I'm not here to talk about that one today, but.
Please come back and talk about that one.
But I do, I hear you. I think this project, if you really know areas that you've driven on these unauthorized routes, because there's a few that people have been going on for years. We have some examples like Missouri Creek Trailhead. As you go up Profile Creek, you pull in there, there's a little pull around, people can disperse camp. that's an unauthorized route to a system trailhead for us on the Forest Service. So we have some, I'd say, clean up our database, make it legal, put it on our motor vehicle use map to drive it, do the maintenance on our part after we do that. There's that one. Way out at Thunder Mountain, we have Lookout Mountain Trailhead. Also, the road stops at the junction with Dewey Moore turnoff. We're going to add those to the system, go all the way up to Lightning Peak Overlook. That's part of it that we've got in our alternatives to include. So we've really tried, based on the collaborative's input, to where people have been driving, where those places that are important to them that aren't in our current legal system, to get those on the system. And I think you're still going to see miles of road decommissioned, but those truly are, they've been sleepy for a long time. And if there's something going on them where people have been driving and we missed the mark on that, then we want to hear about it. But if it's just give us everything you have that's unauthorized, there's a lot of those segments that they go somewhere, I got it, but they're not being driven for a long time, and they didn't come from the collaborative as important. So that's where we've followed that. But we've also included some others that the collaborative didn't give us on input, like out at that Thunder Mountain area, because the collaborative only looked in the East Fork watershed and downstream. And that's where we wanted to make sure that the settlement agreement actually requires us to look at both areas. And
It's
so,
kind of interesting. The collaborative really was looking for circles, and they were looking for destinations.
like loops and overlooks type.
Yeah, overlooks and things like
You know,
that.
Larry, did they put one down to the Caswell Brothers cabin site there below Dewey?
I don't think so.
'Cause there was Foresters has a marker there. The Caswell Brothers were the original guys back in there.
Wow.
Their pictures are hanging over in Donna's or somewhere. I found all that gold and all that stuff, and there's an old cabin there.
If there was any place, I think, that we didn't give due diligence, it was on some of the historical roads and some of the old mines and stuff that would be good destinations. We also run in, on the Crossville District, you also run into problems with, because you've got wilderness, and then you've got, what's it called, something wilderness,
Designated.
designated wilderness, well, not really.
Roadless.
Yeah,
Roadless.
and roadless. And we actually found with the tribes a great road and trail that from both sides came up to within, oh my gosh, maybe a quarter mile, and then it hit that wilderness, recommended wilderness, and we couldn't connect the two.
RWAs.
Even though we were moving a road off of an area that had a lot of water. So this was going to be on the edge, up on top, a lot safer, but we couldn't do it because of the rules. And Congress is going to have to be the ones to fix that, I think. I'm not sure they're willing to right now, but
Barry, is there something in this that Valley County should take a strong stand on?
I think we should take a real strong stand on Red Meadow Mine. That one, I'm hearing a whole lot from different groups of people, and they thought it was, so the words were it was closed illegally. And that's from people, one gentleman that worked for the Forest Service for 30 years. And I just gave him a copy of the letter from Conway's attorney that gave permission for the public to cross on the road on his mine, which was something we've been looking for quite some time. And so we've got that, and now we got to find out, you were saying we got to find out if Conway actually is the owner.
Well, we would have to, if we're going to be the ones doing an easement, that ownership. Sure, it's probably really clear if people that do title searches and look at this stuff, but on my preliminary look, I've sent a registered letter to that entity in Dallas, Texas, because of trying to get from, trying to tell them, hey, we got this project going on, and there's also access to your property that's not currently under a special use permit or under an easement that I can see. Trying to reach out to all those landowners. Many of them have got back to me that are out in this area, but that is one that I haven't. And
Yeah, and if I don't mind, and I know some of the guys wouldn't, if you need people to help find people, they'll do it.
no, it's just, it was just the timeliness of this finally going out.
Yeah.
Like there's a collaborative recommendation on the north end of the Red Metals mine to go kind of skirt the edge of it for an overview that you can drive up to it on ATV and stop at the end and look. But that one, when we looked at it on the ground, you still would have to go probably across that private land. So before we can put that on our map and make a connection, we would want an easement to get that done before we start
I don't
spending.
think that landowner was gonna give us any permission on that. That's kind of, and the other one
That
that's,
wasn't Conway,
But
was it?
that's Red Metal's mine on that north end too, Larry.
yeah.
Like the Wilson mine access.
So they gave us permission to go to the end of Red Metals, which is an overlook. And then the collaborative, some of the collaborative, which I didn't agree with, we walked and tried to go up along that ridge, which is all slate, and there's no way you could build a trail, so we backed completely away from that.
So our alternatives showed up that backed away.
Yes, yes.
But even that one, in this project area, there's more access, things that need worked out here than maybe some other spots. Like South Fork Ramp didn't have many of those where a collaborative recommendation went through somebody else's property and then came back as a loop or, an out and back. Where this one has a few more of those that we've included them in here, but we do say it's pending getting access across the private landowner.
I think the other thing the county might want to comment on the last, there's still quite a bit of the last project that isn't done. And it's not done because, let me know if I'm wrong on this, but as I understand it, all the decommissioning, all the obliteration has to take place before we do these other projects. And that just is a little one-sided to me. It seems like we could do, if we're going to talk about points one way or the other, let's do them at the same time.
Well, I think
Get
that
some
makes
stuff
sense.
done.
It's like,
It's been how many years and what do we got, 2 projects left to do?
So if you want me to I can respond. Or,
Yeah, please.
So Big Creek Restoration Access Management Plan, we're nearing completion. So last summer, some of the big last things were the Smith Creek Bridge, the Smith Creek aquatic organism passage on some of the tributaries, storm damage and risk reduction work on the tread of that trail open to all vehicles. And so out in Big Creek, there's been a lot of efforts since that was signed in 2018 to focus there, prioritize that. And so we're really close to being done. The new motor vehicle use map, which should be out now, will actually show that Smith Creek route open to the public to travel it in your Jeep or your UTV or your motorcycle. It used to be ATV and less, so now it's open to trail open.
you guys took the bars out up in Elk Creek.
So at the Elk Creek end, it was already open. It just showed.
We went, last time we were through, which is a couple of years ago, it was 250-inch right off the edge of the road.
Yeah, it's passable.
It's passable now.
At least, so we may be talking 2 different spots out. Maybe you're talking way up on like the upper McRae.
Past McRae, where it comes back up on top of Elk Creek.
Something there may still be there then if that's what, I'm talking at,
And honestly, me personally, I'm fine with leaving it as ATV or UTV, not full width.
well, it'll be whatever we said in that decision of that project, because that's what, everybody agreed to. And so if that may be a loose end still that I need to follow up on, but the priority's been, that one was the one that was signed first. The collaborative was struggling early on, like try to do all of it at once. And they said, time out, we need to break these into project areas. Big Creek was first. That decision was the earliest. We're almost done implementing. South Fork Ramp, the next one, which was signed in 2021, I believe, is just barely starting. And we started doing some road decommissioning in the Sesesh Face, Xena Creek, Cow Creek area.
Okay.
More to come. There's UTV or an ATV route over in Buckhorn that's really important to people, or some expanded routes up in there. So that area, sequencing you have to do to go get heavy equipment in on the existing closed road system that's out there, do the work, everything behind a spot, and then you work your way back out and either make a trail or you pull your culverts and put in like a ATV bridge. When you do that, you have to sequence them. But there's also offset for watershed health of doing some of that other decommissioning first before you put a brand new trail open also in there. So yes, there's sequencing. I think we're already doing stuff out there. So I mean, we're not just doing road decommissioning first and nothing else. I mean, if you go to the confluence site where the Sesesh River comes into the South Fork, right below there, gravel's going in. There's going to be a new outhouse there this year. We've managed the site differently. That's
You
happened.
pulled the old outhouse, right?
If there was one there, it predates me, Larry.
I just got a call, I got somebody call me on, I don't know if there's one there or
So
not.
there was one just upstream of there, what we call 33 Bend, that was part of the South Fork ramp, and it said to decommission that site and put a new one up at the Oompal site.
Yeah, yeah.
So Oompal's still in the works, but the other one did get smashed, and that one was a very old outhouse.
The way you
So
describe
there
it.
is sequencing, and so I just say, we do have a plan on our website that shows how we're trying to work through and what we think for the window of implementation is, but I do understand that there's likely some motorized folks that put a lot of effort into that document and into that process and would like to see their return on the
And I
investment.
think it's more of a communication thing, Dave. Maybe it's more of a brief window on the webpage instead of trying to find it somewhere through a deep document. This is what's planned for these, this is where we're gonna go in the future, and the year you're gonna do it. So people can see, yeah, they're not closing it, they're gonna fix it, but it's gonna be another year or two.
And the story, I think the story map was really odd. This is the
Yeah, the story map
second,
is,
they did Railroad Saddle was a story map, and then Granite Goose was a story map. Those things are, for the public, those are great tools. It's a lot easier to get through them. Reading the document is really tough, but those story maps.
it's hard to read those things.
Yeah, and the one thing that I did notice on alternative D, that's the most expensive one. That's even though that's the most recreation, it's also the most decommissioning. And I've gotten some comments back from people on D.
Well, B and D have, I think, pretty much the same amount of decommissioning. And so really that gets back to the forest plan in those areas is such that it's a restoration
Yeah.
emphasis area for wildlife, fish, watershed health. I mean, that's under our forest plan, that's what was deemed for those areas. And so that there is more balancing trying to be had out in that area, both active restoration, which involves going out and doing something, or passive, where you let the land cover
But
itself.
we can still, I mean, like you said, C is what was recommended. That is the main thing that came out of the collaborative. But we could put, include Sugar Creek as an ATV UTV into that week when we make our comments. Can you include that in a C? Because you don't necessarily have to follow a certain alternative. You can mix and match.
As long as you've considered that range of alternatives. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it would be, so right now we have the most restrictive on that would be a closed road with what we call maintenance level 1, up to an open road maintenance level 2. So I would think
In
a
between.
four-wheeler would be somewhere in between that.
Yeah.
And so it's not currently just called out with like exactly, but we'd be in the range of in between those two. So I think we would have that ability to do that. Through our public scoping the first time, there's a lot of people that just said, give us as much motorized as you can, and getting specific of, is a motorcycle enough, or is a 50-inch ATV enough, or is a 70-inch or less ATV, or a trail open to all vehicles, or just a full-on road, that's a whole nother spectrum of our users, that what they own or what they want to own probably is what they enjoy, and that's what they want to go use. And so, this Sugar Creek was contentious during the collaborative's effort, and here at least we have a range of alternatives being considered.
Yeah.
And if,
Well, I think right now,
that would be
correct me
good.
if I'm wrong, Larry, but I feel like alternative C is probably our best shot.
Alternative C with the caveat
We
of
can look at Sugar Creek as
doing a Sugar Creek for ATV.
whatever they think,
Get
a
Red
50 or
Metal Mine
70
open.
inch. Yeah.
And Red Metal Mine could also be opening up outside of this project. Am I correct, as a CE?
I don't know about CE, so it gets back to, that's a temporary road in our database because it's an access just for that special use permittee. So to go to a full, public access, we have a forest plan amendment that says don't, at least for roads, so it depends on, once again,
What level, yeah.
what level, a road would need a forest plan amendment to add new roads.
Okay.
So during this effort, there are forest plan amendments that are being considered. Now, as once again, the STIP settlement agreement said, don't have that be the barrier. Consider forest plan amendments where you need to bring in line the needed motorized access that's out in this area at least consider it. So there are forest plan amendments, both for alternative B, C, and there's 2 different forest plan amendments, 2 different categories for D. One specifically for the Sugar Creek Road, and then the other one's for the other routes.
So Dave, is it stronger from our side to have this discussion as our input, or do you need something in
We
writing?
need to have it
It'll
written.
be written.
Or Larry's gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have it all together. We've got, I think it's due December the 5th.
June 5th.
June 5th. I'm hoping to have everything together by the end of next week.
Okay.
There's a large group working on it, including IDPR and a few other people, so. And everybody's really fairly close, which is pretty nice after the last few projects we did on the other side of the forest.
Well, it's always been a contentious issue. I know we
Yeah.
kind of got let down in Sageham, because we did a lot of work down there for recreation, and then they just dropped it. They just left it out.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why were we even there? I mean, it destroyed the morale of the coalition, and there's a steering committee left, I think, but no one else is involved with it because they got their feelings hurt. And that has nothing to do with you, but that's kind of the issues that we deal with at this level.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, anything that's not tied to the Southwest Idaho landscape and the wildfire crisis strategy is it just takes persistence and sticking with it, and those are our priorities. And
Would it be
so-
appropriate for us to include into their opening up South Fork to ATVs, UTVs?
I mean, you can, but it's outside the scope of this project, so it'd be best if, within the
I
project.
just bring that up every time we have this conversation.
Yeah, it's worth a try. I know I got a call last week from a guy who lives on Johnson Creek that they were hauling in a big D6 or D8 cat down the South Fork.
Yeah.
And I thought there was weight restrictions on it, but apparently not. I don't know what that did to some of your crossings, but I'm sure it wasn't good for them. Don't know where the cat was going, don't know who it was, but
That you had sent out a notice to everybody back there that they were moving those pieces of equipment in, but I'm assuming they had to also notify the Forest Service, so.
They're all involved.
That's what I had. I just wanted to see if there was any questions I could answer. I'd be glad to stick around if you
I've
want.
got one question to throw at you, and I don't know if you have an answer. I mean, we have wilderness areas, but that one that you just mentioned a little bit ago, future wilderness, or
Recommended.
Recommended wilderness, wow.
That's part of our forest plan. They have these recommended wilderness areas identified in them, and essentially preloads. If Congress wanted to pick a spot, that's a place that people have said, think here.
so we need Congress to just throw all that out in the garbage. And we've got more wilderness areas than some states have states.
And the good news is that there are some forests, at least in Region 1, that are looking at doing that. And there's one right now that's looking at getting rid of no-net gain or the potential
no-net
lynx
gain.
habitat. They're thinking about getting rid of that because once we got rid of no-net gain, my gosh, we could really start spreading people out, start grooming up to Big Creek for that matter.
Yeah.
You know, but
I mean, it's just
that's on the
restrictions
forest
like-
plan right now.
Restrictions like that that drive people crazy, and they're not necessary.
No.
And it make your guys' job a little easier.
And the PAED has
It's
made a
smaller.
decision to go over, at least on the stuff that we've been looking at, all the closures. There's like 10 closures right now on the PAED that are probably 30 years old. And there's never been an analysis done on them since the original. In fact, I think I mentioned to you guys, I sat in a meeting the other day where a bunch of those got re-signed by Linda Jackson, and she just re-signed them. There was no analysis. And the LEO at the time said, well, if you look at NEPA, you're supposed to read and analyze every 5 years, not just sign it.
Right.
So she said she would not enforce in those areas, which really shocked me, but.
well, and I think Neil makes a really good point about the RWAs and the primitive areas, which is another designation, is that now you guys are tasked with managing it to keep it in that condition. And so that's as good as saying it's wilderness. And I know in the roadless rules, we've talked a great deal about all these, and there's a strong push now to allow roads into the roadless areas as tent roads, because we got so much dead timber. go in and get the timber and harvest and burn and do all that and then take the road out when we leave. But you can put a road into them.
There are exemptions, or, I mean, things that be considered, but this project is doing, as you asked me before, this is really motorized travel management, and it's in relation to the settlement agreement, and it's not, good, bad, or different, it doesn't include the other really stuff, veg or non-motorized, you know.
We just like to unload on you guys to come in, you know?
Just give the county priority for all of
Freeze and
our,
fire with you guys for Payette too, so.
just listen to the county about everything, it'll be fine.
Yeah,
How do you guys get funded, Dave?
How do we get, I mean,
To get those projects like you guys are doing?
so a lot of different ways. It's, I mean, volunteer, blood, sweat, and, you know, getting after it, blood, sweat, and tears. There's Nez Perce Tribe that's getting money through different avenues. We submit grants for IDW, you know, for Idaho Parks and Rec type money. Yeah, there's just different mechanisms. We get some special opportunities through our regional office to compete against the other forests. There's national priorities we can do it too.
And Make
So,
America
things
Great.
with collaboratives
The
and
Great Outdoor Act.
collaboratives and sign NEPA helps us
There's a lot of it.
already right to the
Yeah.
ready to implement type stage versus just people daydreaming about where you'd love to have something. I mean, this puts it into motion sooner.
Did Cressel get any, did you do any of the Great America Outdoor Act projects?
Yeah.
in Cressel?
Yeah, and so, I mean, in the lower East Fork, we did some heavier tread maintenance on a lot of our trails that, in that lower part and up on the head, you know, kind of the top up by Sheep Creek. A lot of outhouses have been replaced down in the South Fork. So yeah,
That would be something, and I noticed the Boise is starting to share that information. That's the type of information that we need to share to the public and let them know all those things are happening, because they don't. I asked the other day, I said, we were talking about field trips. I go, let's do a field trip and look at all the things that have been done with the Great America Outdoor Act money. And it just kind of got blown off, but I think it'd be great to have it in the Star News and the Statesman and all that stuff.
It's good PR.
It is, because some people think nothing is getting done.
Dave, we got a few more minutes. On kind of a more of a personal question, personal note. Are you guys getting pretty fully staffed again? Is everything picking back up, or how's that working?
yeah, I mean, I think it's mixed. You can pick any one certain thing and probably somebody feels like that crew is, you know, have the luck that they'd hoped to get staff this year. But in 2024, we did quite a bit of hiring. A lot of positions we were successful in filling, both fire and non-fire. I mean, next Monday, we'll do like I said, preseason fire. You guys were on your agenda. There'll be a little more detail of like, because the engine didn't get enough staffing to actually have it staffed this year, but overall, Price Valley, Helitech, Smoke Jumpers, our short haul out of Cressel, a lot of engines were staffed and,
Oh, good.
but we'll get that specifics next weekend. As far as other positions, I mean, there's a few here and there, not so much, but a lot of it, we've still been having some luck.
We're kind of finding that it's a mixed deal where they might want to work 3 days in office and 2 days at home. Seems to be drawing more folks. And then some of the positions we've gone to contracts, they're not even here. So it's been tough filling positions. And that's the only other thing I wanted to let you know, and maybe you already know about. We got notified from EF that they're gonna do some major development up Clear Creek all the way to YMCA, and I know you guys have got a big chunk in the middle of that, but it looks like that road is gonna get in a few more years.
I don't know, is that on the Payette? I'm not sure where that is.
No, I think that's on Boise.
Mainly Boise.
Probably so.
And we'll let those guys know when they come in too, but man, the stuff that people are talking about, it's getting kind of scary.
One of the things in the Payette, Jeff McFadden let us know that ITD rated that bridge that's at the South Fork
Okay,
for 4,000-pound load.
is that the one up on the paved road up by like Warm Lake?
It's 4
Or is it a
four
different
tons.
one?
Step past Warren, 4-ton.
So this is one out past Warren, CSASH.
Okay.
So
Got a
East
bridge
Ash proper, gotcha. there'll be some sign on the way as you're driving to Warren.
We asked him to post signs at Warren and Big
Is
Creek.
it on the
so-
South Fork of the Salmon River, or is it?
Yeah.
It makes it sound like it's sounds lower down.
Well, it's got some wood stuff underneath.
Maybe at the mouth of the Seasesh? Okay.
Jeff's gonna have to reach you guys.
Yeah, I know we're trying to find a time to get together. At least I keep asking my engineer folks when our annual coordination meeting is, and I think it's.
Well, I might ask you to wait till after 1st of June because we're bringing on a civil engineer
Okay.
for the road department, starts 1st of June. And he's got a fire hose to drink from right off the bat, but we're gonna try and cut back on our engineering costs and have in-house engineering. His name is Dan Kuntz.
You actually may be familiar with him though. Dan's done a lot of the engineering work up here for LTAC
LTAC,
for a
yeah.
long time.
Yeah, definitely some of the bridges out on like the McCall to Stibnite route are starting to show some wear.
You know when Lick Rick was built? That's gotta be a really old road. I have no idea.
That could be really mean right
But
now.
there's some bridges out there that are looking.
Yeah,
like they're
well,
not
if you're,
from last
Joe,
year.
that was a very good spot. It's been minor.
Still one of the most beautiful places in the whole world.
Yeah, Lick Creek
I would
Summit,
think
Yeah,
so, yeah.
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for coming.
Definitely
Discussing.
keep contacting. I know Larry's been getting in touch. If you got any more questions specifically.
I'm gonna,
reach out to
I'll
me.
send you over any of that information I get on that ownership too. Just
Hey, have a safe travels.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Take a break. Real good. Okay, we're gonna move on down our agenda to the next agenda item, and this is not an action item. This is a workshop to discuss purchase of the Marititle building. I don't know who put this on, but
Well, we put it on last time we started this discussion. We need, basically, so we close on the 21st. What's next steps? Asked Brian to reach out to Amerititle today, and they have not agreed to allow us any kind of early access into their space. So that whole upper floor, they may make a decision, but may change that decision. But right now, we're basically on hold until the end of their
lease
lease.
until February of next year.
Yeah. That means we get full lease amount, so we'll be saving
Yeah.
those funds, so we could actually do some pre-planning. We could go ahead if you guys want. I mean, we had an architect reach out to us. We could do an RFP or at least do an RF, just find qualifications for an architect. If you guys think we need somebody to take a look at that building and plan.
Is this something
Sure.
Cameron and his group could do?
They will hire somebody. I mean, Insight is the architectural firm that they're using right now. They
So
might be a
they-
little bit expensive for this work.
Yeah.
They move, they won't. They are moving out February 1st or
The end of February.
28th.
February 28th, 2025.
When they're out.
Yes.
But they don't want nobody in there until.
They're still making that decision. We asked them that, and it sounds like they haven't made a final decision either way, but it would be a little interesting for them because they do use a couple of those closing rooms to close some of their stuff. And we would have to figure out a way to define both sides so that there was no opportunity for loss of data. I mean, they have to protect all of the information that they have in there. So they'd have to make sure that no one could get to that information. It's disappointing. I would like to have seen us be able to do something before then, for certain. It's not
I wondered if we
hard
went
and
back-
fast yet, but
They'd be interested if we went back and cut their lease payment. If they let us move in and use some of those.
we would have to do that. I mean, if
Is
they don't,
that an offer?
we would have
Did
to
you guys talk
sub,
about that?
It was.
He said no? Really?
not a hard no yet.
Pretty hard right now.
So they haven't said no, but I talked to Matthew earlier today, and his concern is maintaining the confidentiality of the records and just the disruption in the workflow for his staff that's there. Be a lot of in and out, which they're concerned about. The reason he says he hasn't made a final decision is because they are under contract to move into a new building that is yet to be constructed. And the way I interpreted our conversation is that they may not be too excited about us moving in immediately, but if things progress faster than what they think, we might be able to move in before the end of February. That's me interpreting what he said. So I think that's an option that still might be on the table, but there was certainly some hesitancy about while his Cascade employees are still in Cascade, that they not be interrupted with their regular work, with construction going on inside and folks moving in and out. They wouldn't be able to complete their work. So
they'll still have an office up here after this new one gets built.
that's the plan. Yes. Yeah.
So I think that there could still be a plan. Basically, the parking lot needs fixed. So we don't really want our team in there anyway. All that work is being done, or any more employees than we already have. We probably are gonna have to provide access for you guys while that parking lot's being fixed through the bottom some way.
Right.
But we could go and get the parking lot fixed, get the new parking lot installed, and get that done. I think we should, personally, I kind of put on a piece of paper what I thought might work, but I think at least having a designer or an architect look at that footprint and go, this is the highest and best use for the most employees within this space. Probably wouldn't cost us that much to have that done. And that would give us a plan to work toward. And then, within a couple months of being able to move in, we could put all that stuff out for bid. In the meantime, we're earning interest on our ARPA investment, so there's nothing that we have to do there. We're continuing to get our money out of that ARPA investment.
Ryan, was there any plans included with the building in the sale? Do you know?
I've got an electronic copy of the plans.
We could
Yes.
get that to an architect, an interior design, whatever you want to call this person, and they could look at how to redo that efficiently. I don't know if they could come up with a cost, but I'm guessing they could come pretty close without even going in and disturbing anybody.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they can look at the space, and the space is being used right now here. Figure out what needs to be done over there.
Yeah.
And then we've got to decide
Who's going to go over?
who's going to go over.
And I think we need to have, because I just don't know this, and I'm glad Doug's here. I wish Johanna could come over. Maybe I'll get her, but
She's actually had to leave for the day.
you see, one of the things I'm concerned about is like last week I came in and Candace had I think she said it was about 4,000 or 5,000 in cash. Now, if that's got to go to the treasurer down there, how does that cash go to the treasurer? Are we setting up some employee for a bad time if somebody decides to hijack them, take the car, hurt them, whatever? I'm concerned about, how does the cash move between these two facilities?
So,
I think that's something we need to really make sure we protect the employees on.
and in the past, being in my banking world, and there's certain things I won't discuss on camera, but you set up a courier. And so basically, it probably would be law enforcement, would once a day.
Well, I don't know. Maybe law enforcement's already doing that. I don't know who takes the deposit up to our bank and we're calling now.
Yeah, and that's probably not something we want to
We
discuss
don't want
on.
to talk about that either. But those are the kind of things that we don't want to set our employees up for somebody to run them off the road and steal the money.
No,
I'm
we
not
would have,
worried about the money. I'm more worried about the employee.
absolutely. And we would have to have something set up with that intention, because everyone interacts with the clerk. So this building is still not gonna solve all of our long-term plan, because we can't put everybody down there. It's not a large enough building.
Nope.
So in the short term, however, if we move those that have the Most, those that are in the worst office spaces, that we could move over there. I think, we do need to have a conversation about then what happens to this space. I mean, basically, I feel like I'm talking to you guys in the back of my head. I think it would be a great goal, myself personally, to create an environment where you have the court together, or clerks, the clerk, and the prosecuting attorney's office in one spot. That is not this building. Prosecuting attorney cannot come back to this building without doing a ton of work to it and spending a lot of money right now. So, but that could be a long-term plan. And at the end of the day, we rebuild whatever this extension is and make this the court facility where the prosecuting attorney is close to the courts again. And then the clerk's office could go down and do fine down there in the basement. And we could have all of those units back together again. But in my opinion, right now, the prosecuting attorney is in an area that is a professional environment. People go in there to talk to an attorney. It's important that they have that space. So we can't put them back
Sherry,
again where.
And I'm not gonna probably be on the board when you guys do a lot of this, but I think it's worth having an architect come in and look at both floors of this facility and tell us, hey, let's go in and open it up, whatever, put windows in the concrete wall, do whatever we gotta do, tear off the north end, because we know that's where most of our mold issues are, and give us a plan for this too. I would like to see a lot bigger commissioner room, updated, latest and greatest. This is kind of embarrassing with the old pipes sticking through the walls everywhere.
It's got character.
It's got character, that's for sure.
That's what we say about you, Neil.
But I think, you kind of,
I resemble that remark.
you've got to get the appraisers and the assessors and all that stuff. And Cinda and the building department, all that's got to go and get this pretty well empty before you're going to do any kind of remodeling.
Right.
So it's going to be a staged kind of, you're moving over here, we're going to fix this. You're coming back after we get fixed, and then this person's going. And,
It's a phase thing.
and then what's really great is we can grow on both ends.
And I think what has been discussed, there's not a formal recommendation yet, so I won't make one for me, but the elected officials that have been meeting, we've been discussing what that looks like, what the work floor would look like. We know that buildings, planning and zoning, treasurer all need to move. Assessor needs to move. Those 4 divisions need to relocate.
So June, geez. Brain fart. Sue, are you thinking about moving DMV down there as well?
Well, we had talked about possibly moving it to the sheriff's department, but Kevin said that he doesn't have room
No.
over there. And so with that being said, I'm hopeful to get everybody out of the old part of the building, moved down there or relocated it, whatever that looks like, including the DMV down there. I think when people come to the courthouse, the public, I'm gonna say 80% of the people that come through these doors is for the DMV.
DMV, absolutely.
And I'm actually hoping we can put it fairly close. Johanna took me down there and just did a walk around this last week. And they were gracious enough to let us take a look. I think we could set it up to where, the DMV is very close to the entrance. People can get in, get out without, having to go through the whole building. I really think that would be beneficial for both the county and the taxpayers.
It'd be just like down here, if they come in the front doors and where the clerks are at right there, people walk up right there. It was something that simple.
Yeah.
Walk right in, there you are.
So knowing that, that's where we're definitely gonna have to have an architect, because I don't think there's room. We're gonna impact who can go if we put that much down there. And so I think that, I definitely think an architect is gonna have to give us a flow chart of ways to get in and out and how many office spaces we can actually create in that environment. Because if we take all of your assessors plus the other ones, you can't even spatially do that much, so.
Well, look, can we have another elected official meeting and have that
Absolutely.
discussed?
Yeah.
Because Johanna and I were going back and forth on some stuff. I just hate to see the county spend a lot of money on an architect when we might be able to do it ourselves and figure it out.
Well, the other question is so DMV, one of the questions that we're discussing, that's gonna have to have a decision made on it is, the employees are used to having protection out front. People have to come through, and be checked at that front door. And so now we're gonna create that in a whole nother environment to protect our employees.
That was my next statement.
And that hasn't been resolved yet. I mean, Kevin's gonna want more people for the sheriff's office if he has to cover 2 buildings. And so what does that look like? I mean, that's the additional expense we're not planning on right now. That will be an expense we have to talk about in the future.
Is there a foyer on that entrance down there on the south side? Is there like your office? There is a foyer there that we could put a magnetometer there and security upstairs coming in.
So there is not like that lower level. There's an exterior door and an interior door, and then a reception area. A fairly formal reception area that would, I guess, logically make sense that you'd have security set up right in that area.
Somewhere right where you come in the second door.
There is a foyer area where the fireplace is on one side, and then there's a little, I don't know, a
Over
nook
to
on
the
the
east,
west side.
corner.
Then you walk into where there's a large receptionist area, and that would make most sense for probably DMV to be right up front.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
There's a separate
They don't
door
have to
to
go
it,
very far. They just come in the door, they're right there, and then they can exit
right out the same door.
right out the same door.
Would it be necessary to have any security at that site?
I think that needs to go to the security committee. I mean, they're the ones that made the recommendation to do it here in this building. All the craziness in our world today,
I think it's a good
our
idea.
employees feel safe behind, a security entrance, so that's something, and especially if the prosecuting attorney's office is there, then that's important to keep that.
Well, I'm thinking of the big picture when they're back here and all the court services are here.
It's probably gonna be a while though.
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, we're years down the road.
So that's why
Well, there's another issue too that I think we got to start thinking about is the fact that the sheriff's department is out of room as well. And my hope is that we can somehow remodel this center part and build some either up or down, I'm not sure where, but so they can come over here and maybe do driver's licenses and open up that space for more offices for deputies and investigators, and because they're jammed up too.
So I don't know what's real and what's not real. I have heard stories about downstairs being a foot thick concrete walls, and that is your only support. I've heard that it was jail cells, and so that there's metal in the walls. I don't know what's true and what's not true. So we probably do need to have somebody come in, take a look at it, and find out the feasibility of that. Doug, I don't know if that's something that Clearwater did at all. Did they?
Not-
No.
No.
Interior design. Well, I can tell you the north end has two, top floor and bottom floor, a vault. And that vault is what's holding up the roof.
That's why.
And that's,
Plans. We do have plans for the courthouse.
Oh, okay. That would be
The old
great.
part and the new part.
Okay. So if this is able to be remodeled and we can put in outside windows, that makes a whole different conversation than if these are concrete walls and this all just needs to come down, we would need to redo this. I think part of the conversation should be that, if we're gonna be down there and remodeling the fairgrounds, is there a long-term vision to do a building down there that could house all of the commissioner meetings in it, have public meetings in it, be available to the community? And then you take all of this down basically from where the new courthouse was and just wipe all of this out and rebuild on this site.
Well, or maybe just the north side from this door on north out. To me, would definitely has got to come down one way or the other. I think the center part, we just put a new roof on it, 5 years ago? 4 or 5 years ago in this facility.
So if that basement can be remodeled or not. I mean, that's bottom line.
You can do a lot of stuff with concrete, but to me, we need somebody that can come in and say, we're gonna move this department here remodel this, move this department here, and start shifting this around. I mean, for us to try and figure that out, it's gonna be,
Too much.
it's gonna be, everybody's gonna be mad at everybody all the time because they didn't get to go. And we went through this and it's like, oh, man.
That's what leadership's all about. That's why we're having the elected officials all in a room together, because that's,
In the long term, in my opinion, you'd be better off to just scrape everything that's old and start over, because when you start remodeling, it ends up sometimes costing 2-3 times what it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
Exactly.
Start over.
I'll agree with that 100%.
This one's all heated by the old boiler and the radiators, and even on the treasures, all the old radiators are there.
The heating system is very old. There's a lot of abandoned ductwork.
Wiring
And I'm
everywhere.
not so certain the health of those spaces. And I know the further this way, it gets bad. I don't know about in the middle. But
and we may all be off this board before that happens, but I think this space for certain is gonna have to be used for a number of years until we can come up with a community center or some kind of a facility down there by the fairgrounds.
I think you ought to do a lottery. See who goes.
I don't think that would be good financial planning. I think right now we know who goes, honestly, because you know the divisions that need to leave their spaces. I mean, Sue doesn't have a window at all. A lot of her employees are in this central hub that is not a good livable workspace. We've got issues with both the building and the planning and zoning and the treasurer's office. Those four really need to be the ones, and those are the ones that are being discussed right now.
so, and what about recreation? Are they gonna be able to be housed at the lake fork?
Yeah, Larry's gonna need a spot, but we could find him a spot here. So,
Well, I think it's great that everybody throws ideas out and we keep talking about it. We can't form walls and fences and be open-minded. And, I even thought once about, well, if we move the sheriff's department over here, we could put the prosecutors over there. But I don't know if we want to put the prosecutors in the jail.
no, there's a conflict of interest.
Didn't work out too well.
I mean,
Well, and
there's,
also the sheriff's department can go to the EOC.
no, they,
Patty's not here anymore, she's not, it's a whole different conversation.
they're pretty protective of the EOC.
There wouldn't be if that's their new office space.
So if they did scrape the old part, let's say, and start over, would you guys, I know that the EOC can only be used for certain things, but could you have commissioner meetings over there for a while until they were able to rebuild this space or do a community center type building down at the fairgrounds?
If push comes to shove, we could rent the Legion every Monday, I'm sure,
Well,
but,
that's true.
I mean, there's different places we could go to have the meetings, but,
Yeah.
you even look, we talked once about having 2-story with parking underneath. This would be a great spot for that. Everybody could park underneath in a secured lot. Because parking's getting really kind of tight around here.
The biggest thing is audio visual.
Yeah.
IT's got to be able to set it up, but the EOC I don't think is big enough, so,
Pretty limited.
yeah. So baby steps as far as that goes. First baby step, do you want to hire somebody to look at these buildings, or at least to look at the new one?
What has Cameron and them done? Have they just done a big picture? They haven't
Yeah.
done anything considering what we've done.
They are a financial planner, really.
Right.
And they've given us a step forward. We need to actually amend that document now that we'll complete this purchase. But that's all they do. They help you envision the future.
And they didn't, without that piece, they didn't have a clue.
No.
When's our next elected meeting?
I won't be here this month, so probably gonna be June. I'll call
You're
one.
going on vacation, 2 weeks.
Good for you.
Well, I know right now we can't really do anything until we solve the issue with the title company. That's the first one. Take one bite at a time and then go from there.
And honestly, you guys, we probably need to ask if they would mind someone coming down and looking at that space. You're gonna have people, if you hire somebody to go down and look at it, I mean,
So,
make sure that the maritime.
Brian, could you send out that contact information, or is it just, we just talk to Molly there for the title company?
It's Matthew is he's kind of the regional.
Okay. Would it pay to, hey, can we go in and at least send an architect in to look at the space?
To coordinate that, that's best with Molly. 'Cause
With
she
Molly?
works-
Okay.
Yeah, because she works down there and,
Yeah, and I know Molly really well.
yeah, and give her as much advance notice.
Are they work 5 days a week, 4 days a week?
They're there Monday through Friday.
Are they?
But if that's something we want to do, then we probably should put together a proposal to get some feedback.
You ought to go out for a bid for, what do you call that, interior architecture or?
Well, it's
is- I
an
don't know what that's
architect.
called.
It's design review, it's an architect. I mean, an architect's gonna take a look at the plans and basically move walls and, but what my real concern is that people are asking to put up full walls. We can't do that with the heating and cooling system the way that it is right now. And so we've got to be able to show employees, these are our capabilities. And it needs to be outside of us saying this so that employees understand. We're trying to do everything we can so that everyone has a space that's going to be a very professional, workable space. But you can't start impacting heating and cooling units. And only an architect is going to be able to tell us, this is the way that we've got to lay this out. This is the way that this building is going to function correctly. And if we don't have that, I'm afraid that we could get in and all of a sudden Scott's going to have a nightmare with things are in the wrong place. There's electrical issues in that building.
Yeah.
The electrical needs to be looked at to make sure that their plugs are in areas that make sense. We've had issues in the basement because the plugs are on the floor, not on the walls. So you've got copiers in the wrong spots. So,
Don't look at me. I don't do electrical.
So the power coaxial and ethernet connections are in boxes in the floor in that interior space in the basement. I don't know what the layout is upstairs if it's different, but that probably should be taken into
Is your
look at.
ceiling in the basement, is it like this?
Yeah.
Oh, so they got access to that whole floor upstairs then. Is the boiler, I know the basement, your floor you stand on, is that concrete?
It is.
So is that boiler heated?
Is the boiler
Is your, got heated
Oh, is the
floors?
floor heated? No.
So it's all forced air furnaces?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, they could access any outlets you needed in that space from below, anywhere you guys needed them for your offices.
Correct.
That's easy.
so
Annette, Gabby, you guys are really quiet over there. What do you want to say?
I'm just listening. I think our first step, we close, we work with the Ameritidal to complete their lease. That will give us some funding. But I feel like we need to hire somebody to take a look at the building and give us an idea on what we need to do as first steps.
We could use that money from the lease to pay for that.
Right.
I'd be good with that.
Way over $100,000, that's for sure.
And then, first of all, we can't disclose that. I found that out. There's confidentiality in that lease. We need to be careful what we're saying. And then do the outside work. Get this summer, we need to make sure and focus on getting that lot fixed or the parking lot fixed. And then also getting a new lot built. You guys said you had, what did you come up with as far as the new lot? An idea for a new parking lot? That said, you guys had met out there and came up with an idea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna get a whole lot of parking area.
On the north side?
On the east side,
On the east side?
we're gonna
Right
widen
as you pull in.
that probably about 20 feet.
Take the trees out.
Take some trees out, we'll leave one big one there that he didn't think needed to be moved, to trim it up. Come right on down to that, where you turn down, from about halfway up the hill, just take all that blacktop, take all that out of there, because he's gotta regrade it, because it grades back to the building right now.
Oh.
So now he can grade it out the other direction, then go right past where the back door is, sweep all the way down there, you can see a transformer back there. Take parking lot all the way over to a tree that has a bag in it. So you'd have to see it. but give us parking all through there. So it's gonna be a lot of parking spaces.
Did you talk about crack sealing the cracks, or what are they gonna do there?
He said he'd look at that. He says those aren't too bad. The one bad one that's on halfway down the hill, that comes out anyhow.
Comes out anyway.
Tearing all that out.
Just mainly the upper.
Just the upper area.
Are there retaining walls?
No, didn't think there'd need any retaining walls, the way he's gonna build it.
Did he give you any idea on how many spaces we could get out of that?
No, we didn't know yet. He said he's gonna draw it up. He's gonna give us a ballpark cost, what he thought it would take to build it. And then he'd give us another cost for blacktopping it. So,
If I remember right, it would be like 30 employees potentially down there.
well, it's
And then
just gonna be a
plus the
whole lot more
public parking.
parking spaces than that.
Okay,
It's gonna be a lot of parking spaces down there.
perfect. That'd be good for the fair too, so it won't impact the fair area. Okay,
You got plenty.
yeah, I've got the,
That's the original maritime plan.
so I guess, do you want to go ahead and hire somebody now? Do you want to hire somebody later? What?
I think we should go out with an RFQ or P for whatever you call it, design architect or whatever that, and we'll see if somebody would bid on it, see what it would cost.
I don't know if
So I don't know
it's
who's gonna write the RFP.
I don't know if it's a different type of architect that
I don't
does
know what you
that.
call it, interior decorator or designer
I don't want to know.
no.
Please no.
It's just an architect.
Inside.
And we could probably work with Clearwater to see what Insight would charge us to do that work, because if it's $10,000, I'd be shocked. It's probably 5 to 10.
Oh, that's not that bad. I had a much larger number.
I'd be shocked. I mean, all they're doing, they're not moving any exterior walls. Probably not gonna move any interior walls. All they're gonna do is set up, some different, basically modular furniture to try and see. There is gonna have to be some work at the front done, I think, and especially if you're wanting DMV in there, we've got to be able to block out those doors that are currently open access to the public. We've got to be able to protect our employees. So there is gonna be some walls.
I like how the prosecutor is, you go knock on the door and they have to get up and come let you in. Somebody's getting exercise today.
No, we're gonna have to put in these things too.
Yeah.
For our doors.
And Doug, I'm assuming as soon as we close, you'll get it on the insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. That day, we'll contact them.
And then, so we already know the wire's gotta go out. I don't know if you checked on that yet. So
Wire.
the wire transfer the funds
Oh.
will go out on Tuesday. So we will actually take possession of that building. So do we need any kind of an updated lease agreement with Amerititle starting on Wednesday so that they know where to send their payments to? Is there an amendment to that lease? An estoppel?
Just an amendment to the lease that I can work on once we close.
Okay. We should do that with just make sure our expectations are in there, and if there is any change, I doubt it, but. What are we forgetting?
There's always something.
So the RFP, Doug, do you want to ask Clearwater? You want me to ask Clearwater if that's something
I
that
can, yeah.
Insight could do for
I
us?
can also provide you an RFQ. It's kind of, that is similar to when we went out for the request for qualifications for the master facilities plan. If you want to change some of that wording.
That'd be great. So
Does it come
that's
with a
being on-
dollar figure, Doug? An RFQ doesn't ask for,
It doesn't, we could do an RFQ and an RFP at the same time.
let's make them both and stretch it out.
We've had a gentleman reach out to us from Boise wanting to do this work, but I don't, never heard of him. I have no idea who he is. I think we need to at least get somebody that we know has good background.
You guys think of anything else?
I'm good.
You know by chance what the power bill is for that building? Because we're gonna have to budget for that as well.
Yeah, I imagine it's gonna be pretty spendy.
This one here last month was just a hair over $3,000 for this facility.
So, and I don't think they're leased. Do they pay power while they're there? I don't remember.
I don't know if that was a triple net lease or how that was structured.
And it could be they're making that payment, not us, but,
I think they are.
and I thought so too, but.
You know whether they got propane or gas?
Boilers, everything's electric. There is a propane stove, a gas stove, but that's been decommissioned a long time ago.
Everything's electric.
Yes.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, I bet their bill's $3,000 a month.
Probably.
So Brian, it says additional rent, all taxes, insurance costs, utility charges, and charges other than rent that tenant is required to pay by this lease shall be additional rent. So they're paying that, so we won't have that duplicate cost.
But those are bargaining chips with them.
I don't know that they can bargain honestly because they don't have a place to go yet.
Right.
And so if we could show them a way to create a door and totally close off those additional areas and separate everything, it would cost us some money to do that. But I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, Annette's not gonna wanna move in the summertime.
We gotta be
Cinda doesn't
patient.
really wanna move in the summertime. So now you're getting into what's busy season for these people. You know, Treasurer's busy in the fall, you're busy in the fall. They probably wouldn't move anyway until in the spring because that's, depending on where people are located. The only people we would get over there in the short term would be building and planning and zoning. And that's gonna be this fall anyway. So we may as well get all the work done as much as we can and just go in once they're out and do the work before our team gets there and we got a bunch of mess.
Well, I'm not trying to sound obtuse here, but how do you know it's this fall if the title company says no? We've got this for lease until the end of February. We're not giving it up.
Right? But what I'm saying
Even though
is
there's empty offices, we don't want you guys
they very well could.
digging around up here.
But what I'm saying is we really couldn't do anything until fall anyway. So now you're,
Or as far as us moving.
yeah.
They're not even under construction yet for their new location,
No.
so
They're not gonna make that happen.
it's fine that they're optimistic that they can get something done by next February, but I'm having a hard time seeing how that's gonna even happen.
You know where the old pharmacy was?
I don't know for sure. There was some talk about that, yeah. It could be there, it could be somewhere else, but not sure exactly.
Well, next week they'll have the new, what is it, Maverick, Stinker, whatever, that'll be done. My gosh, it's amazing how fast they put that up, so they can put them up pretty fast.
What are you talking about?
Out at Davis's deal.
A stinker station out
They're
there?
pouring footings this week.
Not a stinker or,
I can't remember if it's a Stinker or a Maverick.
it's not a Maverick.
It's a Stinker, I think you're right.
Well, if any employees are listening and you want us to consider anything, please send us an email. So we'll try and keep this as coordinated as possible and get it done efficiently.
They're not gonna own the building.
Okay, we're gonna take a break. Doug, why don't you mute us and we'll be back at about 10 minutes, 3:30.
Mr. Chairman, we're back on. Mr. Parker with the City of McCall is appearing virtually.
Hey, Brian, are you there? Okay, our next agenda item is an action item This is to sign the facts, findings of facts and conclusions of law for PUD 23 and CUP 2311.
It's actually PUD 23-02, Mr. Chairman. I
Dash 2, there's no dash 2 on mine. So Brian, is there anything you want to add or talk about? You did send them to us. Everybody, I hope got a chance to look at those.
This was the Sampson Trail storage unit process. Yep.
Did you work with Brian Oakey on those, Brian Parker?
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the last draft or was submitted to you in your packet. The final draft that was reviewed by Chief Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Mr. Oakey, as well as McCall City Planner Brian Parker.
I didn't see any changes, so.
So I guess the next step, if there's no questions, is to entertain a motion to approve the facts and conclusions and be done.
Chairman, I would move that we sign the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and the decision on PUD 23, CUP 23-11, DR 23-28, SR 2318.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the findings of facts and conclusions of law. PUD 23-2, all in favor, please say aye. Aye, motion carries. Did you, oh, there it is, good job. Thanks, Brian, good to see you again. You look good in orange. Orange is your color.
It looks like the sky.
That's actually salmon.
Salmon?
Yeah, that's salmon.
Whatever. We all three sign this one. And then Doug attests.
See if they challenge it.
See what they do. Thanks, Brian. Have a good day. Okay, we're gonna keep right on going here. Our next agenda item is not an action item. This is a presentation by Treasure Valley Transit and a request for funding. Come on up. I apologize, I forgot your first name.
Terry Lindenberg.
Terry. Thanks, Terry. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm very excited to be here and share some good news regarding the transit system. I'm Terry Lindenberg, the Executive Director of Treasure Valley Transit, and we operate Mountain Community Transit and several other rural systems within ITD's 10-county area of District 3. I presented quite a bit of information, and what I'd like to go over and highlight is that the Green Line was established in 2008, and it provides 17 runs Monday through Friday per day. One bus leaves from Cascade, the other one from McCall, and they go back and forth. So it's the largest route, of the system right now. And I'd like to say too that the ridership went up 24%. Last year, it went up 34%. This year, it went up 24%. So it shows that we're 6% above the FY19 numbers. And that's really good news. I like to share such optimistic news. And then I have some key information I'd like to share. The McCall to Cascade employment, the medical center, there's 4 employees that utilize the bus. Cascade Courthouse, 3. And then the Department of Lands, 1. The Forest Center, 2. From Cascade to McCall, we have Franklin Building Supply, 4 employees. St. Luke's and Allen Noakes, 2 employees. Ridley's and Albertson's 3 employees. And then from Cascade to Cascade, we have 1 employee at the D9. So other destinations, there's a relatively new school within the last 2 years. It's called the Tamarack Community School. And that school has 12 to 15 during the school term average riders from Cascade, to the Donnelly stop. And then the school has school bus transportation from Donnelly up to the school itself. I did go and ask for some funding and was informed that they're a nonprofit and also on a tight budget. And because they're state funded, their only transportation funding goes to the yellow school bus. So I tried. I'll say that. And then I'd like to say too, that, the Nobo Inn, that's a park and ride lot for us. They've allowed us to do that, and that's a benefit as well. And the overall system, is part of a regional system now, and that's what I'd like to talk a bit about in Valley County, because not only do we serve McCall, Donnelly, and Cascade with connections, we also serve Brundage. And now we have a new service that's in Adams County that's from New Meadows coming on into McCall. So the true hub is in McCall, but it's truly becoming a regional system. And we're very proud of that.
And I kind of wondered if you was picking up New Meadows, because a lot of people live in New Meadows, work up the hill.
Yes, and it's been a real challenge medically, to get to St. Luke's and some of the clinics as well. So it's a very important service, and Mayor Good has worked very hard to raise the local match. And that brings my challenge as the costs continue to go up. For example, we compete for drivers with the school district. Their wages are $23 per hour to $27. They're also offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. So labor within the housing, problems that we're experiencing too is definitely a challenge in finding employees. We were recently very fortunate because we had 2 drivers retire who were serving the Green Line, because on the Green Line itself, it's 1 full-time driver and 3 part-time drivers. So there's basically 2 morning shifts, a midday, and 2 afternoon. So we were very fortunate just to hire on, 2 new drivers. So those are some of the challenges that we face. Now, I like to talk a bit too about the good news, some more good news. I mentioned last year that I had written a grant for technology. I had signed the grant, we've been working on it, it's coming into line, and hopefully by the end of September, we will have it fully functional. It also includes an app. That means anybody within Valley or Adams County can go onto the app and see where their bus is, whether it's the green line, the red line, the blue lines, or the gold line. So we're very excited about that.
Can they buy their ticket there?
Well, right now, I'm glad you brought that up, Commissioner. I had received CARES Act funding, and I mentioned this last year, and I was very strategic in that because ITD allowed it to make up for fares. And their goal with doing so was to get ridership back on the bus, because it's been slow. Nationwide, it's been slow to bring it back. So we're very fortunate that we're there here. And so I have 1 more year that the Green Line can be fare-free. And what I want to talk about the fares is, and I don't know why this is, and I've been in this for 33 years, and it's the same, fares are not eligible to match the federal dollars. So if for $4,800, or 96, I can bring in 12 to 24,000 in grant funds, on just regular local option funding or city or county funding. But when it comes to fares, it's taken off the operational line. It's not matchable. So that's been a challenge for us too, because also the federal requirements for fares You have to have 2 people get it off the bus. You have to have 2 people count it. You have to have safety requirements. And for the 10,000 that we receive in the fares, it's pretty much a wash. So I've been really happy that we've been able to use our CARES Act funding, and we have to revisit that in '25. But then some really good news, and I want to thank you for assisting us with the local match for our new bus. It is on its way. And I just recently wrote the 2-year grants for the FY '25 and '26. And I wrote some grants for capital. And one of the things I did, because we've got quite a few vehicles up here right now, was that I knew within the next 3 years, I would need another Green Line bus. So I wrote a CARES Act grant for it, and I got it. Only because not everybody in the state applied for the money, so we got some additional funding for buses. So that means you won't have to do that, contribute to the local match for the next 3 years. So,
Nice.
and I've got 2 buses in line for that and a Red Line bus.
Good job.
So I'm very pleased with that. So that's very good news. So with that, I will take any questions you may have.
So Terry, you're asking for a 6% increase from last year.
Correct.
Remind me, last year, what was it?
40,000. So I've asked for an additional 3,000 this year. And I do have some additional information. I didn't know if you'd want it, but the city of McCall, the local option, wanted the funding broken down by route. You know, so I brought some for you if I thought you might appreciate that, because it shows all the funding of the different lines, including Brundage. So if I
Why
may,
not? Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
great.
Does the city of McCall also help with your funding?
oh yes, a lot. And that's what I thought would be very interesting, you know, to explain.
They give you lot funding, don't they?
We get lot funding and the general fund as well.
Oh.
There, and this is what I'll show you. I'll kind of go over this. The Red Line service, you can see the different levels of cost. I'll start, the full budget is 1.2 million. That's for all the lines coming in. So the Red Line, the annual cost is 505,754. And
Can you explain
yes,
where the red line, do they all travel the same routes?
the Red Line is the city bus, strictly within the city of McCall.
Okay.
It operates 7 days a week except for 4 holidays. Now, the Green Line bus, this is the 17 runs a day, and that's the Monday through Friday route. And you can see on the bottom, I show the local match funding and where it comes from and what is needed in local match from the different lines. So you can see on the Red Line, the local match for that service is 155,418. Then the Green Line, which is what you can help contribute to, I need $167,074 in local match. And if you go down to the third column on the Green Line down, then you see what McCall contributes to the Green Line, because it serves both McCall and Cascade. And then the city of Donnelly, 8,000. Now, I've consistently asked the city of Cascade for funding, and I get 3,000. You know, so that's a challenge we're facing, you know, right now. So you can see here that even with the Valley County funding, we're still looking at a potential shortfall of almost 25,000. And historically, when there is a shortfall, TVT has to make that up with the Medicaid dollars, which is revenue made in Canyon County. And that's something that's across the state because we don't have state funding for public transportation. So you can see that within the Green Line, the city of Cascade funds very little. They wanted to see the breakdown as well, of the routes. So did the local option tax committee. And then I'll present this as well to the city of McCall for their budget workshop. That's why I wanted to provide it to you as well. So I want to talk a bit about the Blue Line winter route. That's the Brundage service that operates mid-December through mid-April. And this past year operated 7 days a week. They were split up. During the holidays, they were 7 days a week in December and part of January. Then they went to a long weekend, and this last year they finally decided to fill the gaps. And they meet the complete local match, for their service. And then the Blue Line is also part of the city of McCall. That's on Fridays and Saturdays, only during the summer. And it operates from Memorial Day through Labor Day, 2 days a week. And that's just going up and down, the main street to assist with tourists. And so that's funded in part by, totally by the city of McCall. But they also fund the large portion of the Green Line, and then the local option tax and the city fund the rest for the Red Line. So it gives you an idea of the local match requirements that we need, and everybody's sharing that.
Okay, that's really good information. It looks to me like, three of your four is all for McCall and Brundage. Basically, so it's the Green Line that really affects the valley, correct?
Correct. The Green Line is, and that's where our shortfall is. And I do want to mention too that Tamarack wants to come online. They want to connect to the Green Line, and anything that they do, because we do not have funding, grant funding like we do to help Brundage. They actually started the Green Line years ago, before Tamarack went under, in the collapse. So they had originally the grant funds, but we're not at a point now, because we've utilized all the grant funds, that there isn't any available. And we're not seeing a lot coming in from ITD. I mentioned we had great expenses, yet an 8% increase in grant funding. That's where CARES Act, and we're looking at other revenue sources such as advertising on the buses, to help us. And we still have some CARES Act dollars. I wrote another grant to assist us there, and that's going to be very helpful as well to meet any shortfalls that we have coming up, such as that $25,000 or undue expenses. But I am meeting with the city of Cascade tonight, because the challenge will be within the funding is where do we come up with any shortfalls in the local match and how that may look. Oh, I almost forgot. I had mentioned last year that I had written another grant for planning. And I just signed that agreement this last week. And that's to bring in experts in the field of transportation and route planning, so that we can look at all of our existing services and funding and see what that may look like going into the future. How efficient are we? Is everything that we're doing lining up? So, and that brings me to my next question. If Valley County had other areas that they wanted to serve, because you had mentioned a couple last year, was it possible for the route to go out to, I think it was Roseberry or a new division coming in? So those are things within this planning grant that we will seek your input on other areas that you may feel could or should be served now or in the future.
That'd be great.
And then one more thing, bus parking.
I love your passion, Terry.
One thing I would really like, and this is considered in kind, Harpo's, we have the route that starts in Cascade. We don't want a bus driving from McCall to Cascade, but the backup bus has always been in McCall because it serves other routes. So what we would like to do here is have two buses parked here. If possible, if you knew of a location, Harpo's has been more than generous to do that, like right now this summer. But when the winter comes, it's a different story. So I don't know if you know of any place that we could park our buses indoor, just 2 buses, a larger one and a little backup bus, and then we could plug it in and not worry about the weather conditions. That concludes everything I wanted to say.
To the road. Road moves out, might have space, but it's down the road.
That would only be if it's not taken over by the
Don't worry about it.
fair, yeah. We will think on that.
Well, that's
There's an
wonderful.
old garage on Main Street, and I don't know what they're using that for. Any ideas? There's
Oh,
a
the
coffee
Shell
shop
station?
there.
The old Shell station.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, there's a little drive-through coffee thing next to it now. I don't know if that's on the market or what their plan is, but we will keep our eyes open. I think the couple of things you should know is we're in the process of purchasing the title company as an annex. That would be maybe a stop to consider in the route.
Yes,
And then the question I had is you made the statement earlier that Cascade only puts in 3,000.
correct.
This year you're asking for 8,
I asked for 8 last year too,
and you only got 3.
correct.
Interesting. That's all I had. Thanks, Terry.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your continued support of a wonderful service, if I may say so myself.
It
Absolutely.
is, it is.
Much needed.
Okay, we're gonna keep right on going. Next agenda item is not an action item. This is a discussion on the iron meeting.
So that
Jeremy, is
might-
that what you're here for?
I am.
Just to listen in.
Oh,
So unfortunately, I missed the Iron meeting, but so let me back up a little bit. Iron got the contract from the state in order to bring in high-speed internet from Sweet Ola into our area over High Valley and coming up the valley. In order to do that, they have to have what's called pop sites. So
what?
they're pop sites. They're huts that they're 12 by 20 and they are basically bases. Jeremy, correct me if you know more than I do with these, but they are connection points as you crawl up the county. So they're asking Cascade, Valley County, Donley, McCall, New Meadows for a site where they could actually install these sites to allow expansion into the future.
Is this a permanent structure?
It is a permanent
It's
structure.
what they call an office, Jeremy. Used to call them,
So, still not sure.
They need a
So
PD.
POP stands for point of presence. So that's where they would, fiber goes a long way, but it can't go forever. So there has to be a boost every once in a while. And then they will put networking equipment in there for any ISPs who want to offer a service to get on that fiber network to offer their services. That's basically what, so it would be permanent. It would be here for the life of the service.
so do you know, Jeremy, is that like a cell tower where they lease ground or they just want,
It'll just be a hut I guess if there was a county property that you guys would be willing to let them use, whether it be free or leasing it, that would be up to you guys to.
okay, I'm just wondering if that was an option. Because we do have the site just before you go in the canyon there, the state gravel pile on the corner of the highway.
Mhm.
We have 9 acres in there.
And I don't know if because the length between segments will also be a factor, so I don't know if they've
I don't
sent
have-
any engineering saying, hey, this is kind of the area where we would need them, so I don't know if we can just choose an area out of the blue, I guess is what
I
I'm saying.
know they have an office. I think they call it an office. Basically, you turn a clicker, you can go down, don't take a right or left. It's right there. And supposedly, if those were updated, everyone would have a lot more internet. So I'm assuming that's what we're talking about is a station like that. It's like a, I don't know, pretty good sized box, 6-8 feet square that sits on concrete and all the wires come into it.
Yes.
I think those would be more pedestals for getting the service out to
Oh,
So
homes. This would be a main central hub where all that stuff would feed into.
I like that piece of property we have there, Shaline.
Yeah, like what Zipley has, like 2 blocks down here, that
Okay,
building they have where all of their stuff comes
All
into.
everything
It would
comes
be,
in.
it would be more of that kind of a thing.
They're 12 by 20. And so that's what
That's
we're
a
trying to
building.
identify. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a building.
That's a
It's got to
building.
have heating and cooling.
Yeah, but have to have a
And
good HVAC system and all that, yeah.
power and all that.
Mhm. Power, line power.
So would they want us to look for those or?
so
Yeah, I
that's
think they're
what,
looking for places that we would be willing to let them. I don't know if I think building the actual thing is part of their grant. I think they're just from if I read the email correctly, it looks like they're just looking for ground to be donated or leased, however you guys want to work that out to
Does
actually
it
put
have
it
to
on.
be along their access route?
I think as close as we can get to Highway 55, the better.
I was thinking the 9 acres as you come out of the canyon,
Mm-hmm.
the fairgrounds. I mean, right there.
Yeah, I was thinking too, if we're gonna own that, since we own that whole contiguous section now, that maybe somewhere in there we could put something.
Is there,
I'm sure we could squeeze that in somewhere.
yeah. And then the Lake Fork, if they needed something in Lake Fork. Somewhere.
Yeah, Lake Fork would
where
probably
it's
be
like-
close enough. That probably wouldn't be too far down the road.
So if we offered 3 options, I mean, we might get a tremendous improvement in our infrastructure ourselves, our broadband.
Well, it just depends on how many miles between each one they need.
Yeah, that'd be the other consideration, is
that.
how far apart they need them to be.
If it's only 5 miles or 2 miles, we need to come up with a whole bunch more.
I think we offer 3 and just say, this is what we have to offer right now. And then let them come back and say, we need additional ones here, here, and here.
Yeah, and they might want one in Cascade, Lake Fork, and McCall. I mean, I think you could probably get from Cascade to McCall, depending on what kind of technology they're using.
Well, McCall's offered one. I know that they were talking to Judy in Cascade.
Are they doing that this year? What's the plan, do you know?
Yes, they need it ASAP. Matter of fact, we might be too late on offering these sites. So I basically said we have some as soon as we can get back and get together because I didn't find out about it until like last Tuesday. So if we could offer those, then we just give them those and see where they're at and let them come back to us.
That works for me.
For me,
This was a discussion. I didn't put it on there as an action item, it looks like.
that's okay.
But I will go ahead and switch those out.
Put that
Swap
one
it out.
there, Shaline Lane too.
We don't have that.
I don't have that yet.
Probably will.
Don't give the fish away until you've caught it.
Okay,
Okay, is there anything else on that?
nope.
And we're gonna keep right on going. Sue, come on up. Our next agenda item is an action item. This is the property tax exemption application.
He's not here yet.
Where'd she go?
Oh, gosh,
Do we
where'd she go?
we got 15 minutes before, do we want to do our personnel, executive on personnel for 4:35 and just do 15 minutes? Think we can get it done?
Sure, we can do that. So that is, what did we decide that was?
Personnel.
1B?
Yes, that's
1B. So at this time, we're going to go into an executive session for Idaho Code 742061B for personnel issues. So I need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session per Idaho Code 74-261D.
B.
B.
D is in boy.
Is,
Indigent is D. So we're
I
gonna.
think it's B.
we doing the B?
It's B.
B.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion second to go into executive Idaho Code 742061B. Employee evaluation. By roll call, please.
Thompson, aye.
Mop and I.
Hasbrook, aye. Doug, we're in at 4:02.